because we've got a lot of great programming. I will be around down the hall during the info fair, is that what we're calling it? Yes, the info fair session, and I will be in the lobby during the sort of faculty walk-up, so if you have specific questions. So what I really want to talk about right now is the curriculum. Now, Master of Arts folks, you will be pre-registered for all of your internal journalism classes. The only classes that you will be seeking out and registering for will be the one outside class in the fall and the 2 outside classes in the spring, and you will get copious numbers of emails explaining how to do that. MS students, you all have this in your folder. This outlines your fall and your spring and looks rather intimidating. Don't stress. It's easier to follow than it might seem. The thing to keep in mind if you're an MS student is that you need to have internet access from 9 to noon on July 15th, and that's 9 to noon Eastern Standard Time. If you are in the MS program, 9 to noon on July 15th, you need to have internet access, because that is the time frame when you will be able to register for the 2 classes in the fall semester for which you self-register. Okay? How many of you are at Columbia College right now? Okay. It'll be very different than what you do currently to register for classes. There's just this one window. It's 9 to 12. Everybody registers. If you do not register during that time period, we will put you in your classes. So you really want to make sure you have internet access during that time period. And you need to plan around that, because I hear all the time I'll be in the middle of the Alps or somewhere far away. You need to have internet access at that time. In the fall semester for MS students, you will be pre-registered for the reporting class. You will be pre-registered for the Journalism Essentials, and you will be pre-registered for the Master's Project. So there's only 2 things in the fall semester for which you will be self-registering. One is the writing module, and the other one is the choice between either an image and sound class or an audience and engagement class, and whichever one of those you do not take in the fall, you will have to take in the spring. Okay? Now, you do not have to memorize all the variables of this right now, because you will be getting lots of emails from us explaining this in depth and giving you some guidance on why you might want to do image and sound first as opposed to audience and engagement first, and so on and so forth. But again, it's that July 15th date that you really need to keep in mind as MS students. And then otherwise, I want to say that student services is really, we run the registrarial functions, the degree certifications, housing, academic advising, everything that has to do with your life as a student comes through my office. There are certain functions that, the housing is the university, and paying your bills is the university. So in that capacity, we give you guidance on how to work with those people, but we don't actually run those functions. So in any case, how am I doing time-wise? 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. Urgent, pressing questions? Anything? Yes? There will be an add drop period. So you'll register on July 15th. And then if you get here in August and change your mind, there will be an add drop period. Now, just so you know, during the registration period and during add drop, there are no guarantees that you're going to get everything that you want, that you're going to get all your first choices. So that's just something that's a reality. It's a reality in all academic institutions. So I can't promise you that you'll be able to change, but there will be a window of opportunity and a process for attempting to change. Other questions? Yes?
Hold on, I'll bring you the mic. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Here, so we can hear you.
Okay.
Hi. If you wanted to take more of like a radio or broadcast path, will they have in the email like sort of the...
Yes, yes. Okay. There will definitely be, and that's the good example. If you are interested in spring courses such as nightly news or video storytelling, then you will definitely want in the fall to take your image and sound class and sign up for a video class, because you will have needed to take the video class in order to be eligible for those classes in the spring. So there are a couple of fall classes that are prerequisite for spring classes, and we will explain that in depth in the mailing that you'll get prior to the registration process. One more. Anything?
There's one. Oh, right there. Go ahead.
Good morning. Could you talk a little bit about the documentary program and what the timelines are for that and any other information? And have there been any changes to that program relative to the changes that have been made to the MS program?
Right. The documentary program basically, in a real nutshell, is you do your master's project after the main 9 months. There's very little else that is different about your time here. In the fall semester, you will also, like these other folks were saying, you will need to take the video module as your image and sound in the fall semester as a prerequisite for continuing through. And if you've already been admitted to the doc program, you will absolutely get into that. But that's the basic change difference. And there is a required 6-point seminar and production class for documentary students in the spring.
And did we have one more question right over here somewhere? Okay.
I know this is kind of a loaded question, but can you talk a little bit about the changes to the MS program versus how it had been run previously and why those changes were made?
Sure. Basically, concentration became a little bizarre because most news outlets have a web presence. So most news outlets have to have people who can shoot video, have to have people who can collect audio, have to have people who can take photos, and have to have people who can write. And it's all converging. So to say to somebody, you know, you're a magazine student and therefore you are categorically cannot take these other things when you're going to be needing them, it just didn't seem to make sense any longer. So the idea behind this is to make sure that everybody has the option of taking things that interest them and that are part of the whole that's out there, because it is unlikely, you could, it's possible, but it is far less likely that you are going to be able to craft a career around a single method of presenting what it is you've gathered. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you very much, Melanie.
And I will be around today if you have more questions, so just find me.
We've now got a panel of 3 students who I'd like to have them all come up. They are going to show you some of the work that they've been doing. They're each going to introduce themselves, tell you where they're from, give you a little idea of what they're working on. I think each will take 5 minutes to show you what they're working on, and then we can take 3 or 4 questions that you might have about what you're seeing.
All right, morning everybody. Is this on? So I guess I can start. My name is Jacob Kushner. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm in the MA Politics program. And in a minute, I will show you a little bit of what I'm working on for my thesis. But in the meantime, I'll let these guys introduce themselves.
My name is Andre Pierre Duplessis. I know it's very long, so people know me as AP, not to be confused with the Associated Press, which often happens. I'm from Cape Town in South Africa. Can I see by a show of hands who of you are international students, if any? Oh, there's a couple. Okay. So, yeah, I'm studying the MA in Business and Economics, and I'll show you some of my video work after this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Juanita Ceballos. I'm from Colombia. I'm an MS student, and also I'm about to show you my master's project.
Cool. By show of hands, so you guys are all admitted, we understand, but how many of you have enrolled by show of hands and decided to go in the program? Okay. So I assume the rest of you are considering it. So I'm sure that any of us too, we can talk about this later, you'd be welcome to come up to us afterwards and talk about the decision. I know I didn't make the decision to the very last day to come, but you're welcome to come speak with us afterwards if you'd like. AP, are you gonna get your?
Yeah, I'll just take a minute to log in here. I just want to get something online so you can keep on talking.
Okay. Keep on talking. I mean, tell you what, I guess I'll introduce my thesis project, I guess, which is, so in the master's, well, let me ask, how many of you are admitted to the Master of Science program, the MS program? Okay, and how many other MA people here, Master of Arts program? Cool, cool. A few of them. Okay, so I mean, honestly though, this thesis is, universal. Everyone has a thesis, right? And so I did mine on Chinese mining in the Congo, which sounds kind of crazy, but I lived in Haiti for a couple years and did this story about North American mining companies searching for gold in Haiti. And I was interested in the mining, and so I talked with some different professors and realized that in Africa, I mean, the big player in the mining scene is China increasingly. So I decided, I focused on one country, was eventually through the thesis able to travel there to the Democratic Republic of Congo, just meeting Chinese people, meeting Congolese people, getting perceptions of essentially trying to figure out in one country the essence of China's rise in Africa, as people say. And so my thesis, it's kind of a multimedia thesis. So it's written, but there's also photos from my trip, videos, slideshows and that sort of thing. So I can show you that in a minute. But I guess if AP's got his thing up, I'll let him talk.
Cool.
So,
Thanks,
yeah.
Jacob. So, yeah, I'll rush through this. I know we are behind schedule, so I'll try to be really quick about this. That's just my Twitter handle if you want to follow me. I guess when I kind of thought of what I talked to you guys about, last week, I don't know if any of you read the New York magazine, but to me, it's probably one of the greatest magazines out there. I've been subscribed to it for the last 2 years, last week they had two very interesting articles. One by Frank Rich on the future of the New York Times, and I mean just to give you kind of a better understanding of the kind of difficulty that the print industry finds themselves in currently. And I think as journalists and as journalism students, this is something we all really need to think about, because essentially it affects the entire industry. And then also in the same issue, a piece about BuzzFeed. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with BuzzFeed. Yes? No? How many of you, by a show of hand, think that BuzzFeed is journalism? Wow. 3. Well, so at this point in time, BuzzFeed is really the one of our lecturers. She used to be the head of digital at the Guardian newspaper in London, and she's probably one of the greatest mentors and lecturers I've had, and I've studied at a couple of universities. So, and in one of our classes, we do a class called Digital Strategies for News. English not my first language. And one of the things we always talk about is BuzzFeed, because a lot of people, well, clearly this group of people, like you guys, don't think it's journalism, but they've hired some of the best political journalists. Now they're starting a business section, and during this last election cycle, they've done some of the best original reporting that was picked up by all the major cable news channels because of the work that they're doing. And they have this, we're going to skip through this. So my background, so the MA program is kind of geared towards people who have worked in the industry before. I've only worked as a journalist for 5 years, obviously in South Africa, but in that time I worked in digital, I worked in print, I worked in TV, I worked in radio. At a point in time, I was a digital manager for a group of magazines. And one of the things we always thought about, and this is increasingly from the people that come to speak to us at the J School, journalists you know, people who used to be tasked with only writing a column each day, these days they have to think about these kind of things. Who are reading your stories online? What are the page views? People at the New York Times tell us, you know, they have a certain set of kind of numbers or people, unique viewers that have to view their articles each day. And this was just something interesting. I saw that the blue was kind of what it was like 5 years ago when I was still doing this job, where kind of if you had a 9-to-5 job and you worked online, you didn't really have to care about updating your website over weekends or at night. But as you can see, mobile, which is taking over the internet, and you know, it's kind of creating a third of all traffic for most news sites, is changing that behavior from people, you know, reading our stuff in the morning and at night, and especially look at that peak on Saturday. So really the pace of change is so fast. So at the journalism school, this is just a screenshot from the 500 Great Stories. It's a site that was recently launched. You can see it on journalism.columbia.edu. But basically, I think what this school teaches us and has been doing, as evidenced by this site for the last 100 years, is how to tell a story, regardless of what platform you're doing it on. I'm not going to bore you with this, so I'm just going to show you a quick video that I made, and this was part of an assignment in class, in Emily Bell's class. So she basically asked us, think about the way that you are doing, that you're practicing journalism, and how can you do it in a new way? How can you do it in a different way? And how can you make people watch that? So it's a little bit silly, but I created this specifically for BuzzFeed to see kind of how, because if you create an account on BuzzFeed, and I would suggest everyone do that, it's really simple. You just go into BuzzFeed and you log in with your Facebook account, and you can actually track, like those peaks that you saw on the previous slide. You can actually see when people are watching it, where are these people coming from, and that will be an essential part of every journalist's responsibility in the future. As you've heard Melanie have said, you know, in a newsroom these days, you don't just do one thing. You're not only going to be the person that write copy, but you will have to produce a couple of things. So what I did is I keep a little blog. Because I'm from South Africa, it's always interesting to see what Americans say about news from back home. And obviously with Oscar Pistorius, hopefully everyone knows about this story. You know, great Olympian guy I've interviewed, amazing human being, and unfortunately it seems like he killed his girlfriend. And in the way that American media, TV media, reported on this, a lot of people made mistakes in the way that they report that news, and this week we also saw it with the Boston bombings. I mean, CNN is being criticized for the incredible amount of mistakes they've made. But it's kind of part of the nature of 24-hour news these days. It's this beast that you have to keep on feeding. So I just kind of aggregated everything and tried to make it funny. So I'm just going to show you a little piece.
This was a total jaw-dropper this morning. Oscar Pistorius, for those people who don't know.
South African Olympian Oscar Pistorius.
Oscar Pistorius was shot dead on the outskirts of the capital. Pistorius, known globally as the first double-leg...
Covering his head as he got into a police car. Model Riva Steenkamp was shot and killed at Pistorius' home yesterday morning.
Last year, of course, at the London Olympics, when he became the first double amputee runner to compete in the track and field games. We'll take a break. It is 4:07.
Disabled runner Oscar Pistorius. Pam? All right, we're not hearing Pam's mic for some reason. The spokeswoman for 29-year-old Riva Steenkamp joins us now on the phone. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to?
You're speaking to Sarit Ruveni Tomlinson, MD of...
Wednesday morning. Here's ABC's Bazit Kananan.
Oscar Pistorius and Riva Steenkamp were one of the world's hot couples.
It goes on for a while, so you're welcome to go and look that up. Thanks, guys. And yeah, if you have, yeah. So, over to you.
I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my piece before I come, because before I show you. After Sandy hit New York, I was really interested in covering the story. Initially, I had no idea what I wanted to report on. We were all working in this story, and it took me a while to know what I wanted to do. After a while, I decided to go to the shelters and follow the people that had lost their homes and could not return, because I was interested in knowing what would happen with them. So this is the final piece. As you can see, what I did is I built a website using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I combined it with my reporting. So this story, it begins with an anecdote of one of my main characters. I end up meeting approximately 15 low-income families that are currently staying in different hotels across the city. So what I did is, first you have this introduction of this woman who talks about how they are still displaced and they're staying in a hotel. After, I explain a little bit about how many families are still displaced and the policy behind what's going on. Then I decided to include some pictures that I took and combine it with some quotes that illustrate the struggles that these families are going through. And then here's like the second part of the story. I explain a little bit about the housing crisis in New York City. Some quotes about experts in the topic. And here comes a little bit about what I did with combining different elements. I wanted to build a multimedia story because this is what I've been learning here at Columbia, that as they mentioned before, we cannot be writers or photographers. You have to learn to combine everything. So what I wanted to do is combine photos, pictures, videos, text, and also web design. I'm gonna show you a little bit about this video so that you can see what I did.
We got sent into this fancy hotel here in Manhattan. I was shocked because I could not believe that FEMA would pay for something like this. I didn't want to be placed in a $1,000 a night hotel. I have 2 of these rooms. It's crazy. First, I was embarrassed because everybody's coming in here with luggage and stuff. And here goes the Sandy victims in plastic bags getting put on the nice things so the bellman could bring it to our room.
We work closely with them to identify areas where folks can have temporary housing, or they can be able to find a place to live until their home is either repaired or they just completely move to a new area.
Why would you stick poor people from Sandy in hotels that are this nice, but yet we cannot eat here? I saw somebody die in a car. I haven't been getting much sleep. I have to go outside and hunt for food, like what's cheaper for me and my family to eat. I'm not accustomed to this life.
So as you can see, instead of building a sidebar for the videos, what I decided is to put them in the story so that they're part of the story, because I think that journalism, as we have been talking, it's not about just reading. It's about how you combine the elements, and I think that the video could serve, it's better for you to watch the person instead of me telling you who that person is. So what I learned here at Columbia is to combine all the elements that are available to us, so that we can build stories that better serve what we want to tell. And so this is the whole story. I have here more pictures, more quotes, and 4 more videos that I used to illustrate the different struggles that these families are going through now in the hotels.
So I guess we've all done sort of multimedia things, so I'll try to bring up, what I'm doing with my thesis is, I'm trying to publish it using a platform called The Atavist. They actually have a student competition right now. This.com, give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm essentially producing it as this new digital platform. So this is the kind of thing where if you win the competition, they'll publish it and people can buy it or download it on their iPads, computers, whatever. But it's been cool getting to play around with these new forms. So basically I took my thesis on Chinese investment in the Congo and turned it into this sort of am turning it into this sort of multimedia book. And you can embed photos, videos, all sorts of things to kind of tell a story when there's elements that are not just print. This is kind of a slideshow I made that gives you a sense of early on in the story, because it gives you a sense of Chinese presence in the Congo just through a series of quick images. All photos that I took while I was there. Let's see. It needs some work still, but anyways. But essentially, I guess my advice for doing projects like this, it's essentially be ambitious. I think it's really true that you get out of this what you put into it. And as far as the theses, you can really be really ambitious about what you want to do. For this project, I actually had to, it was so expensive to travel to the Congo, I had to get, my understanding is more money than the school ever gave before to help fund the project. And on top of that, I had to get funding from 2 other outside organizations. But it ended up working. I got the funding and I was able to go. And the story, it was just incredible being there, in the Congo and meeting Chinese people and Congolese people and kind of getting a sense of how people's lives are changing because of that. And so I'll just show you, what I'll do is, I'll show you, rather than go through the whole book, I'll show you a quick video that also came out of this reporting, just to give you a sense of, a lot of this stuff is quite publishable in terms of, what you can come out with. And I had been working with the Global Post in Haiti, and then they agreed to publish a couple of my stories from Congo and help fund the project I did there. So here's a video that came out of it. This was actually produced by a J-School graduate.
My name is Jacob Kushner, and I wrote a story for Global Post about 2 cities in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Kinshasa that are for very different sorts of people. In the new city being built, which is called City of the River, this development project, they're building apartments and condos and swimming pools and even private schools. It's going to be an entire kind of enclave. But right across from them, there are people who are literally living on what's the site of a garbage dump. They were moved there after they were evicted decades ago, and now they're facing eviction again as this city expands, as this new city expands. They are likely to be forced out all over again. It's really hard to measure inequalities in the Congo. There's no Gini coefficient that's listed, and even some other scales that list inequalities don't have one for the Congo. But it's certainly not hard to document the lack of development. The United Nations lists the Congo as the least developed country in the world. I think it's important to tell these stories about these inequalities because we have similar inequalities here at home. What caused this private city to being built is the fact of the limited amount of land, meaning that all the land in downtown Kinshasa is becoming very expensive. And if you think about what's happening, for example, here in New York City, gentrification of neighborhoods, it's not an entirely unsimilar phenomenon.
Yeah, and with that, I guess we can open it up to any questions people have about the program, about the theses, the work we've done, or the work you would get to do, anything at all.
There's one right in the front. We'll start right here.
Yeah, this is for Jacob. In doing this project, do you speak any Mandarin, Cantonese, or I'm not sure what languages they speak, maybe Swahili, or did you rely on interpreters?
So the government language in Congo is French, and so I actually had to learn French in order to do this. And I won't say I learned it perfectly well, but enough that I was able to communicate. So I spent all last semester doing that. But I had lived in Haiti where the government language is also French, so I had heard it a little bit. But they also speak Lingala in Kinshasa, where you just saw, and I didn't speak any of that. And also Swahili in the other area I went to, I didn't speak any of that. But because I spoke enough French, I could get by. Or by the time I got down there, I spoke enough French that I could get by. No, that's a great question. So most Chinese companies had somebody who spoke French usually, or English. But most Chinese don't, because they don't. A lot of Chinese who work for these big companies that are moving in there don't have to interact much with Congolese. A lot of the Chinese who open restaurants and electronic shops, I mean, they all speak the local languages. But these big companies that are now coming in to do mining and stuff, it's really, they might have an interpreter who speaks French or English or something like that. Yeah.
Hi, I'm from China. I have this specific question for you, Jacob. So when you choose your thesis based, a story based in another country, how do you manage your time going to that country and reporting that country with studying here?
Sure. I was able to spend 3 weeks in the Congo over winter break. So I think if you need to travel for your thesis, people tend to do it over winter break. So I just spent the previous semester planning for it. And when I got on the ground, I mean, I already had a whole list of contacts that I was, ready to try to meet, Chinese, Congolese officials, that sort of thing. And I just kind of hit the ground running, got there, bought a cell phone is the first thing you should do if you travel to like a new country, I think, or get a SIM card or whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, I essentially just had this list of people, and I was just calling them constantly and running to one part of the city and the other part of the city. And, so I mean, as far as managing time, I think you just have to prepare yourself well in terms of if you're going to travel over winter break and you don't have a lot of time to work on something, you want to make sure you have all the people you want to try to speak with, that sort of thing planned in advance. When I went to the Congo, people told me who had been there, just plan 2 interviews a day because, they're not going to work out, people aren't going to show up, the traffic's going to be bad. But I found it was way better to actually plan like 1 million interviews a day and then just try to like work it out as you go, call someone, oh, I'm running late to this, and then someone would be running late, so you do something else. Yeah, to pack it in there. But did you guys travel it on your project?
Yeah, but more questions.
Okay.
We'll go right here. Could be one.
Hi, it seems like you all chose a topic you're very passionate about. Could you go through the process of honing in on exactly what your thesis was and maybe any advisement you got from the school or false starts or anything like that?
Okay, so my thesis, which I didn't show you guys because I produced a video documentary which is 45 minutes and I'm sure you don't have all that time. But I initially had the idea of doing something about, 4 years ago, I studied in Germany. I was watching the election, the inauguration of Obama on Facebook, and I thought this is revolutionary. Here's a news organization partnering with the social media. And being in America during the, such a crucial election, I thought it would be interesting to see what the social media platforms are doing this time around. And the cable news channels, because it's a declining business. More people are now finding their news online than from TV, which used to be America's first source of news. So like Jacob said, I drilled it down. So here's an election. How's cable news channels looking at it? So when you do any kind of research, especially on such a big program, you have to kind of try and set certain boundaries for yourself. So I just looked at CNN, Fox News, and the MSNBC, and obviously getting access, regardless whether it's in the Congo or whether it's companies like this, it's incredibly difficult to get access to those people. And because of that, I was lucky enough to get interviews, with top management inside these companies, and for that reason, they asked me not to make it public, so it's kind of a shame because it says such a great deal about American media but it's very confidential. And in terms of that, I even got a call from an alum from the school from CNN after I pestered CNN with CNN's PR department with requests for interviews, and she phoned me and said, look, the only way that you're going to get an interview with anyone at CNN is if your school's dean phone us and say, please do this for this poor international boy, And I was like, I even considered doing that. I sent an email, or I set up an appointment with our dean, and then I thought, that's kind of ridiculous. That's why we're journalists. And even in my work I've done before this, you're always going to push, and literally I took the 9 months that I've been at Columbia to convince people or to, annoy people to sit down with me. And luckily I was partly successful. It's only CNN that, didn't want to give me an interview. And yes, there's great resources. Julie Hartenstein that's standing at the back of the room, thanks to her, I got access to some people, and I mean, also in part because she knows such a great amount of people that's with the school. But yeah, as part of your thesis, you get an advisor and even an outside advisor. But I've been talking for too long now.
No, I think that, yeah, we can take more questions.
I have a question. I'm a career changer, and my biggest concern is that there's so many skills to learn, especially not just writing, but photography and video. Do you feel that there is enough time to learn everything, and for instance, in the work that you've shown us?
Yeah, I think that, there's time. There's the people that will be teaching you that will have the time to do that. I can show you the code that is behind the website that I built. If you showed me that 6 months ago, I would say I would not be able to do that. And I learned that from scratch. I barely had any idea about doing videos, and I did that by myself. And this, what I did is because I came to Colombia. I would not be able to do that if I wouldn't not have come here. So yeah, there's time, there are resources, and there's people that will be able to teach you how to do it.
There's a question right on this side here.
Hi, my question is for Juanita. I was just wondering if you had a background in journalism before you came here, and then kind of do a lot of MS students have a background in journalism before they come?
Yeah, I had a background. I went to college and studied journalism, and I worked for 3 years as a journalist before coming here, but I worked mostly as a print journalist. So the thing that I learned here is to become a multimedia journalist, and I think you have here people that have experience in journalism and that do not have experience, and I think that is not a disadvantage for any of them. I think that there's an opportunity for all of you to learn, even you had experience or that you did not have experience before coming here.
Hi, I have a question. For those of you who use like video and audio and photography in your master's projects, how much does the university provide as far as like equipment? Like, where did you do your editing? Were you able to did you get all of that equipment, or did you use some of your own as well?
I personally use all the equipment from the university, and I edited everything here.
I have my own Canon 7D and an audio recorder, so I use my own equipment, and I use the school's computers. They have Final Cut. I don't have Final Cut, so I use the computers here for that.
Yeah, same with me, same as Jacob. Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you. So this is for you, Anita. When did you start did you take a coding class, or I don't know about the coding class, and do you think that we should buy Final Cut Pro for our laptops, or can you do it all here? And when did you start working on the website?
Yeah, I started learning coding back in October, and it took me 2 weeks to build a website. I did this 1 month ago, and it took me 2 weeks to build it. And I have Final Cut in my computer, but I didn't use it for this project. For none of the things that I did here, I used all the the computers that are available here at school. So I think you don't need to buy it. You have, the availability is amazing here. So you will always be able to find a computer here in the school that you can use for your project.
I'm also really quickly, sorry from the back, going to add to that. We're not using Final Cut at the school next year. We're using Premiere. So don't go out and buy equipment until you start here, because then you can ask your professors what you're going to need. So. Did you take a coding class?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys are all full-time students, because your projects seem like really a big time commitment. And so I'm kind of worried if I'd want to go part-time, how the part-time student projects compare to these great projects that you guys have shown us?
I think we're all full-time. I know a couple part-time people, and someone can introduce you to someone who's in the part-time program and talk about that. I understand that they take a course. I take a course at night, on Monday nights, that a part-time student is in, and it seems like a lot of work for them too. But obviously, it's over a much longer period of time. But yeah, I'm afraid we can't probably answer that too well because we're all full-time. But you should ask them to put you in touch with someone who's part-time. definitely.
Yeah, we can certainly do that, but you should know that we expect exactly the same amount and quality of work of the part-time students as we do of the full-time students. So you'll be doing, part-time students will be doing very similar types of projects.
Hi, my name's Jenna, and this question is for Jacob. I'm really interested in doing some research abroad and gathering some interviews for a thesis project, and I was wondering what the timeline was like for your applications and applying for that funding to go abroad.
Right, so the school has a process that you start, I believe, in October. They have a couple different rounds you can apply for funding, and so that's the main thing you want to do, is because the school does a good job of trying to find, you know, money to make your thesis possible if you have a good story idea. But the story leads. I mean, if you need to have a good, story and a good reason for doing that. And then as far as me, when the school offered me some money, then I went to a couple organizations like Global Post and the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting and said, hey, look, the school is giving me this much money to complete the project. I need X amount more for the travel. And so it's just a matter of constantly rewriting and writing proposals. I don't know if you've ever written grant proposals before, but they don't have to be overwhelming. So, I mean, I would say start early, but the key is figuring out what your story is. I mean, I spent September and a lot of October and everything just trying to figure out what's the heart of the story and where do I have to go to follow it, even if it was going to be the Congo or somewhere else. So I think that's really the big first step is, and not that you have to do that over the summer or anything, but use the resources here to narrow in on what you want to do, and then that'll make it much easier when you want to propose write a grant proposal for funding. You know exactly what your story is going to be, and it's much easier that way.
Let me just have a clarification. The MA students do get funding for travel. MS students do not. The programs are very different, so it would be great for the MS students to go to Congo, but I think the programs are just structured very differently, so MS students are not able to do the kind of out of country. You can go out of borough, but not out of country. So for those of you who are looking at going to Congo and like, yeah, I'm all on it. And if you're MS, sorry. But I heard Queens is nice.
But I have to say, some of the best projects I've seen from MS students are, I mean, these city projects are incredible. I mean, someone's doing, Haitian, she's from Haiti and she's doing a project on Haitian voodoo in New York, and tons of people are doing super, super cool projects. In fact, someone did a Congo project before me, but just talking with people here in New York who had actually been in violent areas of the Congo, which I didn't even travel to. So you can do a lot here.
Okay, we've got one last question here. Hey, my name is Jerome. I just wanted to ask you guys, I know the default is like a 5,000 word piece for MS students. So did you guys have to pitch to do a multimedia story?
Yes, you can apply, if you want to do a hybrid project, you have to apply for it, and you have to have like an idea why is it important maybe to include a video or do pictures. You can apply for it, and it's possible. I mean, I think the professors are open to maybe modify your story if your story needs a different element, they're open to do that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you all very, very much. We're going to move on now to the next part of the program. I'd like to introduce Julie Hartenstein, who is our Associate Dean for Career Services. And I know that many of you have been asking questions about what...
Time for questions. I want to give you a quick snapshot of what our Career Services Department does and how we can help you, our students, prepare for life after J School, how we help you compete in the job market and land jobs. You're going to compare a lot of things, obviously, as you're doing today in making your decision about whether or not to pursue graduate education at this point in your career and if Columbia is right for you. But when it comes to career services departments, I think we can very confidently say that the bottom line is that there really is no comparison. When it comes to the J School, we're the best in the business. And I think if those of you who know me, I'm a pretty modest person, so for me to make a statement like that is kind of tough to come out with, but absolutely the bottom line. We provide the most hands-on service to individual students. We have the most resources. We have the most expertise provided by a professional staff, and we put on the largest job fair in the country, actually in the world, of any school or organization. This is the J School, so you have to forgive us. I'm going to work with the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, and how, because you got to get into that habit for every story that you do. Our career services team is a staff of 5. We've all had careers full-time as practicing journalists across multiple platforms, and as several of us as graduate educators. That means we came to J School with a significant number of contacts, with extensive experience, and when we talk to employers, we speak their language. We're not coming out of PR or, HR, and that's what building relationships is all about. That pays off in jobs and opportunities for our grads. Quick profiles of our team. I think we've got a snapshot up there. I spent 20 years as a producer at ABC News before coming to the J School. I spent 7 years teaching broadcast, what was the broadcast concentration, full-time, and I specialize in working with students primarily in radio, television, and in digital media production. Our Associate Director, Gina Boubion, specializes in magazines, alt weeklies, newspapers, and does some digital media as well. She taught at NYU for 7 years before coming to the J School and spent 15 years as a reporter and editor at newspapers in St. Paul, San Jose, and Philly. Our assistant director, Anusha Srivastava, who just joined our team recently, had about 15 to 20 years of experience as a business reporter, both in India and in the U.S., working in print and broadcast. She came from, most recently, she'd spent about 10 years at Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones, so obviously she's really well connected in newspapers, wire services, and business journalism. Elena Cabral, who a number of you have met in the, as director of the part-time program, we're fortunate that she also works with us in career services half-time. She's part of our team and works closely with people in the newspaper who are interested in newspapers and in magazine. She was a reporter at the Miami Herald, among other places, and has really terrific contacts across the industry. And our program administrator, Jacqueline de la Fuente, has a master's from University of Pennsylvania in education, and she works full-time really on our crown jewels, which is our website and our job news database where employers come to post jobs, fellowships, and freelance gigs. So what is it that we do? We're very hands-on in our department. We get to know our students. This is not like your undergraduate career services office, which I presume most of you, or hopefully some of you, had experience with. I would take a guess that for most of you, they didn't know your name. And at your career fair, the only folks that come are either from the military or from Pepsi or the Peace Corps. Every student in the school has the opportunity to work with us, to meet with us one-on-one for an initial hour consultation, or usually lasts a little longer, where we do sort of a comprehensive resume makeover. We work on your cover letters. We help you plan a career strategy and suggest targets of opportunities. Every student is different. You can't be cookie cutter about this, and we really need to get to know you individually so that we can help you with your particular career and your track. Then we're available throughout the year to answer questions, just about 24/7. I shouldn't advertise that. And our doors are always open. When do we work with you? It really starts on day one. We work with you constantly. We bring the world to you. We're not an ivory tower where we sort of just sit there and look out. Throughout the year, our department sponsors an enormous range of sessions with journalists, recruiters, and employers. Just to look at last week, pretty randomly, we had a really terrific panel of freelance reporters and producers, so across multiple platforms. who came to share their tricks of the trade about freelancing and how to survive on the streets after you graduate. They're freelancing by choice. It's not because they couldn't get a job. They really feel that it's a better fit for them. And it was, they talked a lot also about, really inside scoop about how to pitch stories effectively, how to deal with editors, what time of the day to get to them, how persistent to be, when to stop being a nag and when to say no, and how to negotiate what your rate is politely without pissing people off and still getting the best amount of money that you can. A senior editor from Variety, we'd never worked with Variety, at least in the past couple of years, came and talked to a group of students about breaking into entertainment reporting. He was based in LA. He has a really great job. He came to see 10 Broadway openings over the course of a couple days. He then came back for 2 days and interviewed more than a dozen students. He was looking for paid interns and for freelancers to cover red carpet events and I guess like society functions in New York as stringers in the months to come. 2 editors were here from Bloomberg News. They've been here on several occasions throughout the year. An organization called Policy Mitt came in. It's a hot new startup, I'm told. Actually, that was what was reported about them, by one of the major trades. Their work, it's online only. They're a well-funded startup. It's geared toward millennials, and they're dealing primarily with politics and sort of feminist issues. So they came to solicit paid contributors and interns. Next week, Agence France is scheduled to come on Wednesday. They come every year to, they'll talk about the service across both video and print, and also solicit freelance contributors around the world, as well as to fill a couple of internships, which are paid internships, which our graduates have done. Where? Well, we're located right in the mezzanine above the Stabile Center, and between 1 and 2:45, please come and talk to us today. Career Services is definitely not just our department. There are so many guests that come into this building every single day that you couldn't possibly go to all these sessions that are held both in the Stabile Center, in this room, in the World Room, and really in your classes constantly. In other words, the J School is really one giant networking event, and the biggest one of all is held every year in the late spring. 3 weeks ago today, we had 275 recruiters and 135 companies over in Lerner Hall. We have outgrown our space, and this was for our annual Career Expo. We had, there's the list of companies that were here, and Carmel Diamicis, who's in the back, has put together just a quick little minute in the past couple days to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what the Career Expo feels like. Legacy media, all the networks, magazines, newspapers, tons of digital properties from Tumblr to digital startups that we had to research because we hadn't heard of them before, and we evaluated whether or not they were worth a seat, came and joined us. They came only to meet our class of 2013, and when you come as the class of 2014, you'll have a Career Expo all your own as well. Does that video play any?
Cue the video.
I think, start off a little nervous, but, once you sit down and you can take it, you realize people are genuinely interested in, trying to get you to where you need to be after graduation.
I have been very impressed with how excited everybody is, how well prepared everyone is. Good questions, good energy. It's been great.
So what are you looking for in your first job? Ultimately I would like to be an on-air reporter, but I understand that in the New York market, that's probably not feasible right away.
Can I give you my card?
No, not yet.
Get in touch as you get closer to graduation. So I definitely love to keep you in mind for that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have ABC, About.com, The Katie Couric Show, The Nation, The Washington Post, and The Rack News. And I'm not done.
I mean, my role in this is really just to do my best to connect these people with where we do have job opportunities or could potentially at some point in the future. And just, not to let these kind of talented people slip through our fingers.
This guy told me that I have exactly what they want, and he's gonna offer me a job.
Carmel's going to do a longer video in the next couple weeks, but I think that gives you a sense of the energy in that room. It was a really fabulous day, and the recruiters were and the employers were very excited about the students they've met, and there have been a lot of follow-up offers, interviews just in the past couple of weeks. Just trying to think. Stefan Dingle was in the beginning. I know that he wants to go on air. He's a broadcast guy, definitely wants to stay in New York, and I know that News 12 Bronx and Brooklyn, which is really one of the only places that you can stay in New York and go on air if you haven't had experience, have called him. The news director there has called him back in for an interview. Kira, who's at the end of the video, is going on a one-year reporting fellowship to the South China Morning Post, which was a really great fit for her. That was something that she really wanted. One of the nice things about both the Career Expo and actually in Kira's case was a lot of people that come to the Expo are our grads, and the grads are a tremendous resource, which you'll have access to once you come here. The grads, I can say really across the boards, are incredibly generous about coming back, mentoring, hiring. They're invested in the J School, and they're really invested in you as the next generation of their peers and colleagues. We aren't career placement, we're career services, and that means that we don't find jobs for students. We really like to be clear about that. A Columbia J School degree alone is not going to get you a job. You've got to be good, and journalism is a tough field to break into. That hasn't changed. There's no promise of a job in journalism. But we will do our very best to open doors for students, as you can see by, I'm still recovering from the Expo. We kill ourselves to bring employers into this building, and then it's your job to knock down the door and to land a job. We can promise you that we will help you, guide you through the job market. We'll help you understand the job market. We'll help you develop a job search strategy that is just yours. We'll give you the tools to be successful in your job search and bring you face-to-face with recruiters, as you can see. You'll meet more recruiters at the Expo. I think it's fair to say than any other time in your career, even if you count all those people up from here on in. That's for sure. We're also very confident that once you leave here, you'll have the skills and training you need to hit the ground running. We feel very strongly that the J School degree is not just about your first job, but that you're investing not only in the short term, but in a profession and in your career in the long term. There's no question, it's still tough to get a job in journalism, even with all the people that we bring in and all the resources that you have here.
To me, this is also, it's nice to come out to Career Services because this is what I would call the light at the end of the tunnel panel, the alumni. Sort of truth advertisement, I know all of these people because I met them sometime during the recruitment process. Actually, Angel was my first class here when I started at Columbia, and he's actually the first broadcast. Andrew, we met at SPJ, was it Indianapolis? Yeah. Indianapolis. And Tracy, I knew when she was a sophomore in college at Amherst, or was it freshman? You were a rising sophomore. Year, yeah. We met at Unity in Chicago. And then we shared a common colleague when I used to work at Tufts. I know there's some Jumbos in the room. Go Jumbos. I worked at Tufts for about 10 years, and the colleague who recruited Tracy, we were good friends. So we all have some personal histories here. They're going to give their sort of brief bios, and then we really want to have a conversation with you and them about their experience, how they got to their jobs, and then anything else under the sun. We'll probably go to about 11:35 so that you can enjoy the day, have some lunch, go to the student affairs panel, student services. And also Jacob and Andre are going to be in Stabile, so they said they would be more than happy to continue having conversations with you about their projects. I think the Master of Arts theses are due on Monday, so they're right in the midst of it. So, but they availed themselves, so they said during lunch they'd be more than happy to continue having conversations. So we're going to go in class order in about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay? So we start with Mr. Canales.
Hi, everyone. Hola a todos. My name is Angel Canales. I'm the class of 09 broadcast. I am from Puerto Rico, and I've been here for 11 years, so stay in New York. If you're not from here, you're going to love it. First of all, I am very happy I came to Columbia University, journalism school. If you're interested in journalism, this is the best school. It has helped me greatly. Not only the name, not only the training that I got here, but what I took, to every other place I've been since I left Columbia. And should I tell you what I worked and all that? I got my first job from a professor here, networking. And I worked at People Magazine, HBO, and I'm currently working at ABC News. It was a crazy week. And I'm just, I'm happy. I'm happy with what I've done.
And before you went, why don't you just mention a little bit about your documentary, since you were the first documentary class that I got on PBS.
We were the first documentary class, and I had the privilege to work with June Cross and Bessie West. Those two, those are really good professors. Get to know them. I was the first there were 7 projects that went on to do documentaries, and I was one of them. I got my, one of the projects, Habiba was the other person, the other crew who got to do PBS. My air on PBS 21 and 13, and it was about a hate crime on Long Island. About 2008, he was murdered by 7 students from a high school in Long Island. And I saw the story. I went for it even before I pitched the story as my documentary. And because it was a new process, the whole documentary program, and I wanted to do hate crimes even before I knew if I was going to do print or video. And I went for it. It was about 7 students hunting Latinos in Patchogue, Medford area on Long Island. That's, quoting the FBI and the Department of Justice. They were hunting, it was like a blood sport until they killed someone. And this, it was about the aftermath of the murder of Marcelo Lucero. And that went on air even before Not in Our Town or Frontline. So I was very proud of that. And my professors helped me and supported me like crazy. So, yeah.
Great. Andrew.
And actually, you mentioned Professor West. If any of you have not seen it, she just produced this amazing documentary called Makers.
Oh, yeah.
It was aired on PBS. It's, I think, makers.org. Go watch it, and you can see the amazing people you get to work with here and what they produce and still produce. My name is Andrew Seaman, and I graduated in 2011. I was MS Print and Stabile student, so I did the investigative program. And I'm currently at Reuters here in New York. And I'm a medical journalist, so I cover sort of medical research and policy and everything that's always fun and controversial. Basically, I got to the J School right out of undergrad, actually. So, you'll notice probably in this room there's a really big mix of people, and I think, you sort of raised your hands during the last session, but, I came right from undergrad. I actually did journalism in undergrad, which was sort of a mix of broadcast and print, and I had 2 internships already with USA Today, but I also had a lot of internships with sort of local broadcast media, and the reason I came to Columbia was because I really wanted to focus on my writing and dig a little bit more into sort of investigative skills. And the Stabile program here, and if you weren't accepted into Stabile, there's also investigative classes that they offer outside of that. And that's, sort of why I came here. I really wanted to sort of, work on my writing and those investigative skills. And then from Columbia, I got a internship with the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's separate from Kaiser Permanente, the insurance company. But basically they have their own news service called Kaiser Health News, but they also offer fellowships and internships. And they historically take a lot of Columbia graduates into them. And basically they have specific internships set up with different news organizations where you become a health or medical reporter. So I was lucky enough to be interviewed and get picked for Reuters in DC, so I was covering health policy, and then when that ended, I really liked covering sort of the policy aspect and then also science because it's kind of cool, and in a geeky sort of way, but it is. And then they had a position open here in New York. DC is nice, but it's sort of a sleepy southern town masquerading as a big city. So I came back to New York. Nothing against DC, I love DC, but I wanted to come back to New York. I've been here for about a year and a half in my current position, about 2 years overall with Reuters itself. So.
Tracy? I'm Tracy. I'm originally from Chicago, and I went to Amherst for undergrad, and I knew that I wanted to do journalism. I wanted to go into journalism, but at Amherst, it was not a school where I could really pursue that. It was all about reading and writing, also good things. But I remember leaving Amherst and thinking, I have no idea how to survive in the world of journalism. I know that this is what I want to do, but I just do not know how to get the skills to do it. And I met Leon at a Unity conference in Chicago, and we kept in touch, and every time I did anything that had to do with journalism, really, I would send it to him. I would say, oh, look, I tried this, or I wrote this, and we kept in touch, and it worked out really well, because then I was able to become a part of the Columbia family. And when I got to Columbia, I was a digital media major, or concentration, and I had Michael Shapiro, who's great. If any of you guys get to work with him, he is amazing. And his philosophy was, you guys are doing this. We have this site, and you're going to run it. You're going to learn how to do every aspect of running the site. You're going to be an editor. You're going to be a writer. You're going to go shoot video for the site. You're going to do everything you possibly can. And these were things that I never saw myself doing. And it really, I know, not only was I gaining skills and connections, but also confidence and the ability to work with others and talk out, how we're going to tackle an assignment, which was really, really, really helpful for me. And actually, when I was getting ready to leave, I went to the career fair, and that's where I got the 2 jobs that I've had since leaving Columbia. So I left Columbia with a Kaiser Family Foundation and Global Post Fellowship, where I spent my summer in South Africa reporting on issues around HIV/AIDS. And that was something I never thought I would do, but it turns out I'd been to South Africa before, and in my RW1 class, I'd covered women living with HIV in Brooklyn. And then this guy from Global Post, Charlie Sinnott, who is also a Columbia grad, came to speak with us and told me about this opportunity, and I connected with him, and I told him, I'm interested in this. These are my skills. This is what I've learned at Columbia, and I got the internship. And then my second job, where I currently am, which is at NBC, where I'm a news associate, I met them at the career fair, and I went to Julie and I said, I have no background in broadcast. I'm here kind of doing digital media, just getting all of the digital skills, and she was like, it's okay, and she helped me with my resume and my cover letter, and I got it, and I'm there, and it's been really, really amazing, and I never really could have done any of that without coming to Columbia. So.
Let me just ask one question and then open it up to the audience. Could you have gotten where you are now without Columbia?
Not at HBO. People Magazine, maybe, but not HBO or ABC, no.
Probably not, and if so, never as fast as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, no. I would not have gotten there without Columbia, and also not even just getting there, but I don't think I would be doing as well at NBC if I hadn't gone to Columbia, because not only do I have the skills that I learned here, but there's a network of people at NBC who went to Columbia, and they look out for you. I mean, I was working for Nightly News with Brian Williams, and there it can be really crazy and really hectic, and everyone is really, really, really good at their job. And here I am, just fresh out of school, but there were Columbia grads who worked there who said, if you have any question, it doesn't matter how stupid you think it is or how small it is, you come to me, and they really will help you.
Anything to add?
Yeah, well, yeah, and you run into alums everywhere. I know when I was in DC, I remember I walked up to a table at the press club the one day, and they, you know, we were talking about backgrounds, and they were, I would say, all in their 50s or 60s. And I mentioned, oh, I just graduated from Columbia. Everyone at the table, it wasn't like a Columbia gathering, went to Columbia years ago, but it was just sort of odd. And you know, I was talking about, you know, how the education system worked then when I graduated, and they were talking about their years here, and it was just, you know, they're everywhere. And in fact, at Reuters one day, I was working on a project with someone, and I said, oh, I was in Stabile, and I think I have my notes from my class, actually, that helped me with the project we were working on at Reuters. And she says, oh, you were in Stabile? She was in the first class. I didn't even know she went to Columbia, and I didn't know she was in the Stabile program at all. So you really run into them everywhere.
I'm just going to say that two things. For jobs, it has helped greatly. I mean, people look at it and they're like, okay, like you're legit kind of attitude. And the second one is learning. You know, when I came here, I pretty much started learning about journalism, you know, editing, shooting. I shot my first documentary shooting for the first time, learning how to use the camera at the same time. And those skill sets that I got here have helped me greatly. So, yeah. And the name, yeah, helps.
Okay. It does. All right, let's open up to questions. First one.
If you've received any, how would you compare the mentorship you've gotten at the jobs that you're working at now / since Columbia compared with what you've learned at Columbia and the mentorship you got there?
You go. Okay. Well, I'm actually in a, I guess, or I don't know, this is one of the nice things about going to Columbia is that how I sort of got the job I have, even though I was already at Reuters, I didn't know the editor that hired me for my current position, but my master's advisor here at the J School was actually, he's a working journalist at ProPublica, and he's best friends with my current editor. So their styles are similar, and you know, they're of the same mindset, they're in the same beat and everything like that, so it sort of continued on into that. But I would say when at Columbia, you're here with a lot of different people with a lot of different skill levels who, you know, some may just be trying journalism for the first time, some may have been doing it, and the professors are really good at gauging, you know, where you are and getting you to the next level from wherever that is. And, you know, they sort of refine your skills so that you're ready when you graduate. And if you go to places like HBO, NBC, you know, right after graduation, they expect you to work at a certain level. They're not interested in teaching too much of, you know, they'll teach you maybe some finer points about the job, but they want you to be able to sort of jump right in and start going. So, you know, Columbia sort of prepares you for that step, and then, you know, then you refine to your actual position at the job.
And your Columbia mentors are your mentors even when you're gone. I mean, when I was at Global Post, I know writing about HIV/AIDS wasn't always an easy topic to write about. And my boss at Global Post, you know, he referred me back to my RW1 professor and was like, why don't you talk to Michael about this? I mean, he really helped you, and he really kind of, you guys have a connection. And now I go to Michael whenever I have a problem writing, or even if I'm writing something or thinking about writing something, I might bounce ideas off of him, or he might be able to tell me who else to talk to. But I mean, the mentorship that you receive here, it doesn't go away when you graduate. So that's really good.
The same goes for me. I mean, I still talk to June weekly or every other week about things, ideas, and while I was here, I got the most, I mean, I cannot complain about support, you know, staying focused, you know, just working me to a level that when I got my first job, I didn't feel like I was lost or I felt like I was, I'm learning a new system. I was at People Magazine. I'm trying to learn how to write or do videos about gossip. And, but aside from that, I mean, I was ready. It wasn't like I was learning or being confused, but the mentorship and the support still happens today. So, and I graduated in 2009. So.
Oh, Angel, I was wondering if you can talk about how you ended up at HBO and why you decided to switch from documentaries to breaking news, and how were the skills transferable?
So, yeah, HBO is an interesting place. I got to do sports documentaries. I don't have like a label. I just do anything that has to do with media. I wouldn't do print, that I know. Nothing against print, but I'm just saying that's not my taste. But for HBO, the reason I went to HBO, it was obviously for doing documentaries, which I got to do with talented and amazing people. But at the same time, there's a reason why HBO content looks so great. You get plenty of time to work on it, and there's the value of the production is amazing. I was missing that newsroom breaking news thing, which I just started at ABC. I just finished my 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
And this week I thought I was gonna kill myself because it was like too many hours and too many systems to learn and too many things. But I pulled through. I did a live show with kids about North Korea. I did, that was with George Stephanopoulos. I produced a show for an open for the live breaking news for Boston. And again, I wasn't doing breaking news. My desire was, I needed that adrenaline again. I needed that push to create more newsy things versus, at HBO you can be too political. You can get too, now Vice is on HBO and that's like a great thing. But I needed to do that daily turnaround, more interesting kind of thing versus long-term projects, which I am. That's the reason ABC News hired me. But obviously, when breaking news happens, that's what I got to do now. But I'm working on launching a short documentary series for ABC News. That's why I'm there. Yeah.
Next question. Who has the mic? Okay, go.
I'm interested if any or all of you could speak a little bit about momentum and just expectations at Columbia and then in the real world. What are some of the main differences? We talk a lot about the similarities and how it well prepares you, but what's something that you noticed that was very different from your time at Columbia and now in your professions?
You get paid to do journalism outside of this building.
Oh yeah. There's money out there.
Yeah. Here it sort of works the opposite way.
There's a name. When you say I'm from ABC, people want to talk to you. When you say HBO, there's no. Please come to my house. I mean, HBO is like whatever God. Yes, I mean it's that would be a big difference, obviously, but I haven't had a moment where when I came here, I was able to do anything I wanted in terms of story content. I haven't had that, it hasn't been different for me where I've been working. Be it People Magazine, HBO, I always find a way to get what I wanted to produce. And that, for me, I guess I've been lucky or fortunate, but that's something that I can compare to this. It is the same. It has been.
And I think when you get here, at least I was in Paula Span's RW1 class, and if you are ever in one of her classes or have the opportunity, take it, do yourself a favor. But she would do breaking news drills with us, so we got a nice mix of doing sort of our stories that we were planning ahead, and then also breaking news stories. Even if there wasn't breaking news going on, we would do drills to make sure that we were reporting live. And it comes in handy because we were talking actually right before we came up here last night when they caught the suspect in the Boston bombings. I have a sort of a beat that's broad enough where I get involved with a lot of different things. And at like 10 something last night, my phone started ringing, and it was a good source in Boston saying, I think I know something. And so last night at 10 o'clock, I get pulled into a story that I just assumed I was going to go to bed. And so I thank Paula for randomly just stopping class every once in a while and making us write a story about a fake breaking news event. And then also you do have breaking news events that happen here. So, you know, what's nice is you get to make mistakes here. You know, you get to, this is your laboratory. In fact, I think you might even pay a lab fee. I'm not sure, but this is literally a laboratory, and you know, you get messy, make mistakes, try and invent new things, and perfect your skills. That way, when you get on your job, you are ready to go.
Right, because they're a little bit less forgiving at work.
Oh yes.
A lot of it less forgiving, but it's. I mean, that's why you come here, so you can mess up, and so you can kind of learn how to navigate the work world, right? So the work world's harder in the sense that there's not always time for someone to answer your questions or someone to tell you how to do something, but that's why you come here, so you can learn how to do that first. So it makes the transition easier.
And keep in mind, breaking news happens, that photography exhibit, that's Sandy. We didn't plan Sandy, but the students had to go out and cover it in terms of their RW1 courses and however each professor decided to cover that story. So breaking news happens, you know, in terms of events like Sandy. Who has the mic next?
I was going to go back, sorry. I was going to go back to her question, something that I thought about. I actually came here because I wanted to do on-camera reporting, but I started producing things when I was at HBO and when I was at People Magazine. That whole thing went away. I actually I don't know. I have issues with talent because I think sometimes I don't need them, but to you know, to get a story going. But that was something that was different in the workplace.
Okay, next question. Who has the mic? Yeah.
Just in terms of logistics, can you talk a little bit about how much time you spent on campus and in the classroom versus out in the field, and how important you think it is to live nearby or not?
Oh, nearby is great. Again, if you already know which topic you're going to be covering, you should consider that, because mine was on Long Island, and oh Lord Jesus, I hated that freaking train to Long Island. And the zip car, they became millionaires out of that. So yeah, if depends on your topic, but I would be close to campus. I can work at home. I have to be in a, you know, working at home doesn't work for me. So
I would suggest being able to walk here if you can, because we were, in my RW1, we covered Occupy Wall Street, and there was a moment where Occupy Wall Street was raided and the park was evacuated, and I got called in at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was someone who was still at school before that, who stayed until 4. Then I got up and ran there, and I was there for the next, you know, over 24 hours. And so it was really important for me to be able to get here in a breaking news situation and come in and figure out what we were going to do and how we were going to cover it. And it's really, really, really helpful.
Yeah. And you know, I had classmates that did live in Brooklyn. They were always grumpy, but they lived there because, you know, it takes a while to get up here. But, you know, there are places you'll find housing around here somehow. I think, 300 some people do it every year. But I guess to answer the other part of your question is that we have, you know, I spent at least sort of, it was, you know, 50-50. It depends what you're doing. Your RW1 class, you'll have sort of a half a day, I think, or actually I don't know what it is now since they changed it around, but you get a lot, you have actually scheduled time to do reporting, but you want to spend as much time as you can in your beat. You want to go out and you want to see what stores are there, you want to see what people are there, you want to see what's around. So really that's up to you. You know, I was in Stabile, so I had a lot of sort of investigative classes. We did a lot of computer assisted reporting stuff. So that brought me into the building a little bit more. But, you know, you sort of make that schedule, and, you know, it depends on what your professor wants, so.
Washington Heights is a nice neighborhood, and it's close by.
Okay, next.
I have a question specifically for Andrew. How did you find coming in immediately from undergrad into Columbia journalism? How do you think, did you find that your playing field was like different once you finished the program here and went into the working world?
Yeah, I think so. I think Columbia sort of gave me a stepladder to go up a few notches that I definitely wouldn't have been able to if I just went through undergrad. And one thing that you get here, I think you talked about it in the last session, is an amazing network. So, you know, you're using that, and that's coupled with like what you've been doing here. So coming in from undergrad, you know, you have sort of the basic skills, and like I said before, the professors are just great at knowing where you are and sort of where they need to get you. And, you know, as long as you're working with them and trying to get them through that, or get them, you know, to work with them, at least to just improve yourself, you know, you'll get where you want to go. Like, they'll get you there. You just need to work with them. So, you know, coming in from undergrad, you may have a different level of expectation, whether that's lower or higher than people who are either working before or have never done journalism at all. You know, it depends on what level you set for yourself, and you just really need to work to get there and work with the professors.
Just so you know, over the years, the percentage of students coming right out of undergraduate has increased. It's probably now close to 35 to 40%, which is, from what I've heard, sort of counterculture to what this place had been even 10 years ago. I think the market has shifted. More people wanting to go right into graduate school right out of college. So it's becoming a little bit more common these days, at least in this particular culture. And I just realized that all of you came right out of undergrad. This was not planned. I just sort of recalled as I was sort of thinking about it.
And also, I look young, but I'm 31, and I came in here late because I was in the Navy. It took too long for me to finish school. But anyway, for those of you who are like a little older, even though 31 is young, it is young. You're gonna have very young people, older people. You're gonna have doctors, you're going to have lawyers, you're going to have everybody. Everybody gets critiqued the same way. Yeah. I've seen lawyers about to tear because they think they can write. And honestly, just leave that behind, take it in, learn, and move on. That's it.
Okay, next question. Okay, go.
Hey there, guys. So you guys sound like you've all done really well for yourselves, so congratulations. Thank you. I'm wondering, you know, the program goes by really fast, and I know you'll learn a lot, but in hindsight, is there anything that you didn't take advantage of that now that you're working in the real world you think would have helped while you were at Columbia?
Yeah, for me, yeah. I mean, I think second semester I was wrapped up in my master's project and I did not do anything except that. So I kind of missed out on some of the talks that were given. I was kind of late applying to jobs. Like the job fair in the spring saved my life because I had not been thinking about that. And I kind of wish, looking back, that I'd kind of, you know, taken advantage of all the talks that were happening and started looking at jobs a little earlier. Like I did well, but I was lucky. So I think that that's one thing that I would try to remember is, yeah, you're going to be really, really busy and everyone's busy and everyone has a lot on their plate here and they ask a lot of you and you're going to work really, really hard, but don't forget all of the other opportunities that are here that are not happening in the field and not happening in your classroom. They're just happening at this school. I mean, there's so many people who come through the journalism school and you can meet them and you can network with them and you can talk to them and you can go to the different kind of affinity group presentation. So when I was here,
you were president of?
Yeah, I was president of the NABJ Columbia chapter when I was here. And I mean, I wish I would have taken advantage of some of the events that the other affinity groups did or held. And I think that it's easy to lose sight of that because you're kind of lost in what's being asked of you. But I think that it's important to kind of take time and just soak in everything else that's happening here.
Yeah. Same. There's a lot of stuff that goes on at this campus, and a lot of times it's just a question of resources with your time. But you know, there's a lot of amazing things and a lot of amazing people on this campus that you just want to meet, but you know, you just don't have time a lot of times.
I mean, I would add to that the same. I mean, I guess my purpose when I came here is that I want to make sure that when I leave, I know what I'm doing. That because you know, I went to Sarah Lawrence College and all that writing and liberal arts thing is like, yeah, fun. But here I was investing in this and I wanted to make sure that when I walked out, I knew what I was doing and I made it my goal. So regardless of how busy you are, just make an effort to be there and that's it. I mean, it's just based on that. So.
I have a question about
your class assignments. So you worked really hard, and obviously, as a journalist, you want it to be read and consumed by other people. Who were your main audience for any of the class assignments? I know there is a website for the RW1 and everything, but how possible was it to get your work, like, while you were at the J School published? Did the school help, or did the school encourage, or what is the deal? Thank you.
I didn't personally, but in my class, people got their stories. Daily News, I think Habiba got the 911 because it's of the India country code, something. She got it on the Times. But not me. I was focused on my thing. I didn't care about publishing, but I don't know if you.
Yeah. Well, you have the websites, and then there were a lot of people in my class that published their work outside. So they had, you have a lot of different publications that are in your communities that you're going to be covering, and then there's always every once in a while someone would get picked up by the Times or something like that. And the Times is really hungry for video too. I think there was a lot of videos that went to them. For me, I was working on my master's project and our investigative project for Spiel. So I really didn't care what was, I was doing my class assignments, we were putting them up on the website, but for me it was, our major projects weren't done until the very end of the year, so.
Yeah. I didn't freelance either, but there were stories that were definitely picked up by my classmates, and a lot of people published their master's projects, and the school really encourages you to do that, and they help you kind of pitch that. And also, I was working for the Brooklyn Inc., that was my class site, and the Brooklyn Inc. did some really, really great reporting, and in fact, the New York Times was pointing to the Brooklyn Inc. for some reporting. They would reference us. So I think our audience was the same audience as anyone else. I mean, as long as you're making sure you're putting out your best reporting, people are going to pick it up, and people will refer to it, and you'll get eyes from all over that you never expected.
2 quick things. When you do your master's project, you gotta love it. You gotta live for this thing, seriously. And second, professors here will help you get that published somewhere. My documentary got airtime. So were the other projects. May not have happened right away, but it did happen eventually. Some of the people that did print projects or magazine stories, they got published. I know a few people who didn't get it out there, their master's thesis. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Okay. Next, okay, in the back. I guess, how did you prep before you came in? Or did you prep before you came in?
You freak out a lot. Because you try and think, how do you prepare? I guess,
just come in with an open mind. That's what I would say. I don't really think you can prepare because you have no idea what's going to happen. Like, you cannot predict, the stories you're going to cover, what your beat is. There's so much that's out of your control. And you just have to kind of stay calm and just come in with an open mind and say, I can do this, and they're here to help me, and it's going to be okay.
I'll say start thinking of the stories you want to cover. I'm going to go, the topics that you want to cover. Because at some point you're going to be able to cover those, and if you can start reading now about those topics, go ahead, do it. I was too excited with the idea that I got into Columbia that I couldn't stop thinking about it. But the other way you can prepare is just, for people, not only for people who are just coming from undergrad, but already professionals, what stories you didn't get to do in your workplace that you can do here and have the support of people who are extremely professionals,
And then I would say read the New York Times, read the Wall Street Journal, the Metro sections especially, and then also DNA Info and anything that covers sort of a area around here. Try and get the local stories or just get a feeling of what's going on. You may not know where you're going to be put, but at least you'll have some idea of what's happening in the community. So, try and get the Metro sections of those papers.
Hi. I was wondering if any of you are still in contact with friends from your graduating classes who did not go on to work in journalism after graduation, and if so, what they did with the journalism education.
Who did not go to journalism?
After graduation, who did not go into journalism.
Yeah, I know one person. She's very happy, and she's in PR now. I think it allowed her just to be closer to home, and I think it was just that choice for her. But I think I'm in touch with. In fact, I'm meeting someone at noon.
Me too.
Yeah, that I went to school with. She's visiting the city, but I would say the vast majority have all gone into journalism or media. And are using their skills. And even if you do go into PR, you're using those skills, and you're going to be a much better PR person for it. But I don't know. I can't think of anyone else that really.
I mean, even my class, it was like really, that was when the whole economy thing was happening. It was really bad to get jobs. All the people that I know right now, except for one girl that, Bendita, she's like, whatever, doing accounting. I don't know why. But that's really like weird.
People need accountants.
Yeah, they're doing great. I mean, they're doing what they want and they're happy. The people that I know, friends with that I talk to daily or every other day, yes, not Facebook friends, but real people, whatever.
Okay, and this will need to be our final question, unfortunately. Whoever has the mic right there, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just wondering, would you say that your lifestyle as a professional journalist is quite similar to that you had as a student here? And if so, how is it different or the same? And do you think there's a sort of personality type or an ease with a certain lifestyle that you should have before you sort of make that commitment to the profession?
Well, I think you said before, like, to prepare, just, and I think you did, just keep an open mind coming into this building. I think Sig Gisler, who you'll hear a lecture from when you first get here, he has this phrase, keep an open mind, but don't let your brain fall out. When you get here, just be open to new experiences. Don't be afraid to try new things. And you'll find your comfort zone. You'll find what you want to do, or you may have an idea and that might be challenged. But you might have an idea of what you want to do, but your experience here might challenge that. So just be open to the possibilities of doing new things. In terms of lifestyle from here to professional life, I sleep a lot more now. And in fact, every once in a while, I think to myself, I don't have to pull an all-nighter. I can actually just leave this on my desk and do it tomorrow. Yeah, and I know, exactly. But here you only have 10 months, and you have to squeeze as much of an experience as you can out of this building. And what's really nice, though, is that when you leave here, you don't actually leave. Like, obviously, we come back. Like, I come back with Reuters to talk about internships, and Columbia is everywhere, and the J School's everywhere, and you're always in contact with people. So, it's sort of an experience that, luckily and fortunately, never ends for you. It just kind of keeps going on, and you always have these pillars of support that can sort of guide you through your professional career. So, you have a lifestyle here, but it continues on, hopefully forever.
I think also just in terms of lifestyle and personality, you have to love it. You have to love what you're doing, because you are going to make a lot of sacrifices, whether it be to your personal life or otherwise. I mean, for instance, last night I was at work and I thought that I was going to get off at 6, but I worked until 1 in the morning, and I'm going back to work after this. And so you do make sacrifices, but that's okay, because you have to just be eager and passionate and love what you're doing and kind of be a go-getter. I mean, it takes a certain amount of personal drive, and I think that you all have that, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And so I think that you're prepared probably in terms of lifestyle and personality.
People like talent, energy, desire, and when you're hungry, people love that. People love that, and they love it, and it will make you better every other day. Your bosses will love that. When I was going to Columbia, for those of you who have relationships, kids or whatever, I had one. I was able to cook every now and then because I like my cooking, and I'm still doing it. You can always find time to do your thing. As long as you like what you're doing and you're happy, you will find, your lifestyle, it will be the same. It's just a matter of, like, I would say my message, because it's probably wrapping up, my message is, like, when you come here, keep your mind focused and make sure that when you leave, that what you're doing, it's working for you, that you're getting what you want. It's a big investment. It's a big name. People are going to recognize it when you leave. Make it you. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, so this is really the last gathering of everyone in one place. So I just want to personally say thank you for coming, spending some time with us. You have a little bit more flexibility in the remaining of your schedule. There's a student info fair in the World Room, so if you want to just get some more handle on, Brett, what's down there again? Kinds of organizations? Sort of.
Yeah, there's organizations down there from both the journalism school, student organizations, housing, and then also university-wide offices as well, public safety, more financial services. So there's a wide variety of different J-school and university-wide offices that are represented there.
And also later on this afternoon, you'll be able to meet some faculty. They will hang around as long as they can if you want to, for those of you who are able to ask questions. So I want to wish you best of luck in your decision. May 1 is the deadline. And hope to see some of you back here. Take care. Thanks.
Just say that lunch is also available for you as well, both in the lobby and in the Stabile Center. Feel free to grab some lunch. And Ernie and Julie will also be in the mezzanine for any career services, student services questions during the afternoon as well.
You probably want to know how much you need to finance, so we can go over that until she gets back. I have a few spreadsheets. I have last year's average loan outtake per student, but I also have the budgets for this year as far as cost of attendance for your program and also the budgeted program expenses. So let's quickly go until Taryn gets back. This is, and again, you can stop by the our table, the student financial planning table, and get a business card and email me, and I will get you a copy of this. And Taryn's back. I was just gonna, Carmen's a genius. So Taryn just asked. So I was just killing time without a song and dance. So Taryn, so we'll get back to this later, but Taryn's going to go over the good stuff, the free money. So everyone please welcome Taryn Almanzar. Do you need help? Or you got the steps? You need to do like a model walk.
Well, I'm Taryn Almanzar, as Eric has just stated. Welcome once again, and please accept our apologies with the little snafu that we were having with the mics and setting up. Having said that, congratulations once again on being admitted and being here. We're super excited to see every single one of you. Now to the fun stuff. How do I finance? How do I pay for it? What's expected of me? So on and so forth. Let's start with your bills and when payments are due and how it's handled. If you are in the part-time program, your tuition is going to be due 3 times during the academic year. Summer, it will be in June. Fall, it will be in September. And the spring semester, it will be in January. So it's not as though you need to pay the entire amount up front. So having said that, how do you pay for it? What are we offering? So on and so forth. Scholarship, student loans, and the payment plan. My colleague, Eric Halperin, which you have all met so far, he will be discussing the student loans and the payment plan portion of how do you finance your education here. Scholarship funding. Let's talk a little bit about that. There are 2 categories, scholarships that are offered by the J School and those that are offered by outside organizations. Let's talk a little bit about the J School scholarships because I've been getting a lot of questions regarding how it was allotted, the eligibility criteria, so on and so forth. I'll start off by saying that all of our scholarship fundings are based on donations that are made to the school. So what does that mean? It means that we have to adhere to what the donors are looking for, and it also means that we don't have this unlimited pool of funding that we're able to award. So that's a big difference from when you were in undergrad, where the federal government offers you grants or the university trustees have this fund where they're able to allocate significant funding as they see fit. Having said that, for J-School scholarships, you had 3 chances of being eligible for scholarship funding. Based on academic merit, as determined by the admissions committee, which consisted of faculty and administrators. They look at every single application in order to determine who will be receiving those type of scholarships. Financial need, as determined by the scholarship aid application, as well as the free application for those who are U.S. citizen or permanent resident, or financial documents for international students. And then the third bucket has to do with scholarships eligibility restrictions, meaning donors are looking for very specific characteristics or interest in order to select the recipients. And some of those were listed on the last page of the scholarship aid app, where we were asking for essays or for you to tell us about your background, so on and so forth. Let's talk about average grant, what was given out, what we're able to do. At this point, we do not have any more scholarship funding that we're able to allocate. I'll be more than happy to sit down with any of you if you have questions about how the decision was made for you, so on and so forth. But at this point, again, there's nothing else that we're able to do. Can that change later on? Yes, because that's another question that most of you are asking. Is it possible that the funding can change, that I can be awarded any funds? And the answer to that is yes, it is possible. Is it probable? I can't sit here, or stand here, I should say, and tell you yes or no. Again, because we're so dependent on donations that at any point that they may come in, we allot them, and it can be at any time of the year. But remember, we have to adhere to whatever it is that the donor is looking for or wants to give the money to a particular person, so on and so forth. In terms of what we were able to allot, for those in the MA program, the average grant was about $20,000 or so. For those in the MS full-time program, it was about $7,000 for both merit and financial need. And for those who are in the part-time program, it's a range, because you get scholarship based on the number of credits that you're going to be taking per semester, as well as your FAFSA information. And the range for that one is anywhere from like $200 to about $2,500, $3,000. It's not a lot of money, I know, but that's what we were able to allocate. Those scholarships that were above and beyond the $10,000 or the $20,000 mark, those were like very specific scholarships. Again, the ones that we were listing on the back of the fellowship, and those are the ones where the donors are very involved in selecting the recipients. So that's J-School scholarships, and I'll open up for questions later on after Eric is done with his piece of the presentation. Let's talk a little bit about outside scholarships, because this is an untapped market that people sometimes overlook, and you will find people that tell you you're wasting your time, or there's scams and everything else. I'm here to tell you that it's not. I've seen checks as small as $200 and as big as $20,000 or so come across my desk. Do the research. We start you with a listing on our site. Obviously, it's not comprehensive. There's tons of money out there that you need to research. I always tell people, think of yourself as a pie. You consist of many characteristics, many interests, and research, and Google it, and start saying, you know what? For example, if I was looking for myself, first generation Latina who's interested in higher education, but I also like, I'm interested in the humanities, I'm interested in arts, I'm interested in many other things. So you will do your research that way. There are scams out there. There's things to look out. How can you tell which ones you shouldn't be applying for? If they're asking you for an application fee, don't waste your time. They will never tell you that you need to submit a payment in order to be considered for it. If they're asking for any personal identifier, social security number, your passport, anything like that, don't waste your time. Or if they're asking for bank account information, credit card information, a reputable organization will never ask you to do that in order to consider you for scholarship funding. Again, this is the time to do it. One of our graduates actually did an excellent job, and I'm actually trying to get to see if we can put her spreadsheet on our website, which she did her research before she got here, because once the program starts, it's going to be very hectic. And she said, okay, the deadlines are coming up, and scholarships have deadlines throughout the academic year. You have some of them that are in May, September, December, November. She listed them by the deadline. She said this is what they're looking for, and then these are what the application material would consist of. Most of them are asking for essays or for you to tell about your background. You're a journalist. You have a leg up. Write it. You know, it's not going to take you that long. She then went back to the website. She says, you know, some of them were in October. She went back to the website. Deadline didn't really change. It was still just a year that changed, and the application materials didn't really change as well. So she had that prepared, she applied for it, and she was able to get it. Having said that, make your decisions with the money that you have in your hand, with funds that you are able to, if we were to ask you, you need to make your payments today, you will know where you're getting those funds. What that means is, if it means you having to borrow student loans, which Eric will discuss in a little bit, understand what that will mean. Meaning in terms of the repayments, in terms of the interest, in terms of what it will look like once you leave this program. If you are expecting monies to come from these outside scholarships, or maybe a family or a friend or someone is saying it's going to give you money, but it's not in your bank account, don't count on those funds. If they come later on, you can always return your loan funds back, or you can mitigate the cost of something else. But as you're trying to make the decision to come here or not, I cannot emphasize this enough. Make it with the money that you have for sure, that you have right now, that you can say, yes, I am able to do this. There's nothing more heartbreaking when somebody starts the program and they're doing beautifully in it, and then they have to leave because they don't have enough resources to finish it. So as you're going through the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks before you make your decision, use us as a resource if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, or if you're trying to figure things out. We'll be more than happy to talk to you about any of your concerns or what the things that you should be thinking about or looking at. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Eric, and then we'll be opening it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Taryn. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a very quick PowerPoint presentation that goes over the synopsis of the loans eligibility, and then we'll open the floor for questions, and I always seek out more questions than I get, so maybe this class will be different. Ask questions, that's what I say. To begin, so hopefully you don't have to use me, because again, I do the loans, but unfortunately in the real world, I'm used quite a lot. What are your options? So where my office comes into play, and just a quick delineation again, Taryn's office offers the institutional aid. My office processes the private loans and the federal loans. We'll discuss payment plans very quickly, or a little bit in the presentation, and we'll also discuss, I'll reiterate what Taryn says, please pursue external scholarships. Over at the desk, I have my computer, but the SEPA just revised their website, so I can't find their link of external scholarships, but they have an exhaustive list of external scholarships. And if you get my business card and shoot me an email, I will send you that link once I find the new one. And we'll also discuss options for international students, which unfortunately are not as plentiful as for federal or U.S. citizens, but still, we'll go over that. Oh, no, that's not it. What happened?
Things were going too smooth yesterday.
Yeah, what just happened? First thing for federal students, how to apply. Complete the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. The FAFSA is a national form sent to a central processing system. The free application for federal student aid is at the FAFSA website at www.fafsa.ed.gov. If you're a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident thinking that they're going to need federal aid, then you need to have completed this if you have not already. And our Columbia school code is 002707. Federal loans, what are they? There's two types for graduate students. There's the direct loans, the Stafford loans. They are loans that are funded and backed by the U.S. Department of Education. The benefits, they have one point of contact, stable guaranteed source of funding. They also have some income contingent and income-based repayment plans. And the students in public service jobs may qualify for loan forgiveness. We'll go over that more in the question and answer episode. Graduate Plus loans, federal loans that are also funded and backed and serviced by the U.S. Department of Education. We don't offer, those aren't automatically offered to you because they require a credit check. They have the same initial benefits as direct loans. The differences are they have a higher interest rate at 7.9% fixed, and a credit check is required. A little note about that credit check is it's not as stringent as a private lender. That meaning it's created for students who have been students their whole adult lives or just have not had a chance to build a great credit history. It's looking for students who are generally denied or students who have foreclosures, bankruptcies, multiple 90-day late payments. If it's just because you have young credit, this is a loan that's geared towards you. Federal direct Stafford loans. You have to be registered at least 6 points, and for full-time students, not a problem. If you're part-time, you have to be in at least 6 points, which is generally 2 classes, but not always. U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, satisfactory academic progress, entrance and exit interview requirements, we'll go over that. Graduate students are offered up to $20,500. You don't have to take that amount, but that's the maximum amount offered. It's an unsubsidized loan at 6.8% fixed interest. The interest accrues upon disbursement, so you'll have generally 1 disbursement in fall and 1 disbursement in spring. The grace period of 6 months after the program is completed. Loans, fees, and interest rates for the federal loans. For the unsubsidized Stafford loans, we have an origination fee of 1.051%, and for graduate plus loans of 4.2004%. Origination fees, that means they take that percentage out of the loan before it's dispersed to you. The government gets that at the front, and then they get the interest at the end. The interest rate on those loans for the Stafford loan, it's 6.8% fixed, and for the graduate plus loan, it's 7.9%. With the alternative private loans, and there's several lenders to choose from, the origination fees vary. There may be some, there may not, and the interest rate varies on several things, including the lender who's issuing it and also your own credit history. For the federal loans, what forms are required? For the Stafford loan, we require master promissory note and MPN. That can be completed electronically through SSOL, your Student Services Online, as well as going directly to www.studentloans.gov. The master promissory note is your legal contract to pay. It's that simple. To do so, you'll need your federal PIN, and that's what you use to fill out your FAFSA. You'll want to remember that PIN if you have loans because you'll use that PIN over and over again for FAFSA and also for when you're researching how much you owe on your loans. Entrance interview, it goes over your rights and responsibilities as a borrower of federal loans. The entrance interview is a federal requirement when borrowing federal funds and must be completed prior to disbursement of funds. And it says it can only be completed at SSOL, your Student Services Online, but again, that link is just going to shoot you to studentloans.gov, where you'll complete it there. And again, it's just a document. I highly recommend that students read it. It allows you to just flip through it, and you don't really technically have to read it, but you really should, since if you're taking out money, it's going to be your responsibility, and you should know what you're signing up for. Additional options, alternative loans. Columbia has a list of suggested lenders available on Columbia's website. If you have a private lender who will issue you a loan and they're not on that list, you're more than welcome to use them. These are just the lenders who provided information for us for inquiring students. In most cases, you'll just apply with that lender online. And for international students, this is generally their best option when they don't have the money. They may apply for private loans as well. The caveat with that is that they have to have a U.S. citizen or permanent resident as a co-signer, which is generally sometimes difficult. Why would some people take out federal loans versus private loans? So for the Federal Direct Graduate Plus loan, the benefits are it's a fixed interest rate, origination fee of 4.204%. It says on here, it says no grace period. At Columbia, we generally automatically defer it along with the unsubsidized loan. If you ever get questions about it being deferred, we can fill out paperwork to have it deferred as well. They can be consolidated with Federal Direct Stafford loans. That includes the repayment plans, and it's credit-based, but the credit-based is a little bit less stringent again. Private loans, they have variable and fixed interest rates. Most have both origination and repayment fees. The grace period varies depending upon the private lender and the loan type you choose. They cannot be consolidated with federal direct loans or undergrad loans, and they have a stronger credit check. So generally, for most purposes, why would a student use a private loan? Generally, if you have great credit or you have family and friends who have great credit and are willing to co-sign, then research the private loans, because you could shave off 2, maybe 3, sometimes even 4 percentage points, and over a 10-year repayment plan, that's a lot of money. But most often, the federal loan works better for the students, and we'll go over deferment and repayments in the question. Timeline for processing. Unsubsidized loans and Graduate Plus loans have timelines that usually are about 2 to 3 weeks after you accept your loan, complete the entrance counseling and the master promissory note. After school starts, they'll disperse in 2 to 3 weeks. If you have everything in place by July, they'll disperse the first week of classes. Alternative private loans, if you're looking at a private loan, expect at least a month. Sometimes it can take more. So if that's the route you're going, please factor in the time frame. This is some financing offices, but let me just go over tuition payment plans as well. Again, our office doesn't really handle those, but we can talk about them. Payment plans are contracted through Sallie Mae. Payment plan gives you the option, if you have the money for tuition fees or partial funds, but you don't want to pay it all up front, you can do a payment plan. The fees for the fall or one semester are $45 for a semester or $55 for an entire year, 10 payments. If you are interested, you'll set up a payment plan with Sallie Mae. If you do, just for numbers' sake, if you set up a payment plan for $20,000, then you would make 10 payments of $2,000 starting 3 months early. So you'd pay July, August, September, and go through February or March. Okay, that's geared. Payment plans are geared for students who have the money but not all up front, and also international students who have the money but they have to periodically wire in the funds. So those are 2 students or types of students who might be interested in the payment plan. We have brochures at the desk in the back as well. And it's very simple to sign up. You just go on to the website, create a login. It's very easy to register for that. This is financing offices information you're going to need. My office is located in Kent Hall, which is right down College Walk. What did David say? Because we don't like compasses. Right there. Right there. It's the last building before you get to Amsterdam on the north side. In that Kent Hall, you have 202, which is my office, Student Financial Planning. You have the Student Services Center, which is 205. They're right outside my office. If you have any billing questions, why am I getting billed for this? Why is this not happening? You'll contact them. And then you have 210, the Office of Cash Sharing. That's where you make any payments that you need to make for whatever reasons. They're easy to find because they have the bulletproof glass. Again, don't know if it's bulletproof, looks bulletproof. Student Services Online, you're going to be using this a lot. Most of you will be using it for classes and grades, but I encourage everyone to often look at the account detail, because that's where your bill will be. So you know, we bill you. Once it starts, I think the first bill for fall goes out in July. Your SSOL, the acronym for Student Services Online, will always have, when you first log into it, it's misleading. It has the last bill that went out, but that may not be up to date. When you scroll down, it has view account detail, and that will tell you what you currently owe. And I implore you all to check that and to assure that it's 0, because if it's not, then you want to contact me. But you'll use that screen a lot, hopefully. Student Financial Planning, my office, 202 Kent Hall. We're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We accept walk-in hours. If you want to make an appointment, you can. If you want to guarantee a time slot because you've got a crunch between classes or work, please, we can do appointments as well. You can call our office. That's our phone number, and sfp@columbia.edu. Please, if you choose the School of Journalism, and I recommend you do so, if you do, please put that in your inbox so it doesn't go to spam, because we do send important emails, and we've had, unfortunately, a few students who didn't get those important emails because it went straight to spam. So if you are going to attend Columbia, please put SFP in your inbox. And now we'll go to my favorite portion, the questions. Who's our first question? Not all at once, thank you. Back here.
For housing, what's the timeline like? So say I need money for housing. I'm going to use some of my loan money for housing.
That's a terrific question, and it's not stated enough. That's a great question. So, if you get funds for living expenses, such as housing, the unfortunate thing is we will not disperse those funds before the first week of classes. So if you're moving to New York or you're moving to a different location in New York, we're not going to be able to give you funds for the move. We're not going to be able to give you first month's or last month's rent. You're going to need to bring that with you and then reimburse yourself when the first semester disbursement goes out. Okay? That's very important to know because a lot of times in the past we've had students who came here thinking that they're going to get the money who accepted thinking that they're going to get funds to move here and they just don't get that. So that's very important to keep in mind. And let me just add one thing for people who are not familiar with New York City. When you move here nowadays, they're generally asking for first month, last month, sometimes an additional security deposit, and sometimes a broker's fee. So you can sometimes expect to pay 4 months' rent before you even get to the apartment. Keep that in mind if you're moving here and you're saving your money. Okay?
The disbursement, is that like a big direct deposit?
That's another great question. So with disbursements, whether they're scholarships or loans, as long as you have everything in place with your loans and your scholarships, the funds will disperse the first week of classes. They'll go to your Columbia account. They immediately pay tuition and fees. If there's any money left over, then they're refunded to you by either direct deposit or snail mail. We highly recommend the direct deposit because the direct deposit will go to your bank account in 3 to 5 days. Snail mail will tell you 10 days. That's not a given. Okay? Yes, Carmen in the back.
I just wanted to add something, which is that the loans disperse at the start of classes, which for the rest of Columbia is September. So you guys will, I think, you get your loans at the start of September, but most of you will actually start, unless you're MA students, a month earlier. So you'll actually be at the J school for a month before your loans disperse, which is just because of the fact that we're the only people whose journalism students come in a month before classes start for the rest of the university, unless that's changed.
That's changed. So if you're an MS program, you'll get it in August. If you're in MA, it comes in September. But if you're MS, you'll get it in August. Yes? If you're part-time and you're taking summer, as long as you're enrolled in 6 credits and you have all your documents in time, then you'll get it in the May, the 3rd or 4th week of May. But you'll get it in time for summer, the first week of course classes. Yes, ma'am.
Are graduate students eligible to participate in work study, and if so, what offers that?
Okay, so are you full-time or part-time? Okay, so thank you. If you don't ever hear a question, generally I like to repeat back. So her question was, are students eligible for work study? If so, which office do they contact? Generally, and do you want to fill this or you want me? In most cases for full-time, the School of Journalism does not recommend working because it is a very intense program. That doesn't mean you can't, they just don't recommend it. And for Columbia's website does have a student employment section that has work study on there and other employment as well. Again, full-time, we don't recommend it, but we have had a few students who've absolutely had to do it. For part-time, it's an option. Does that help? Did you want to add anything you like that? Okay, over here, please.
I heard what you said about plan on the scholarships we have, but because May 1st is when people have to decide what they want in the program, is it right after May 1st that the money may come, more money may come available?
It could become available, or maybe not. It could happen, and okay. She was just asking if there is the deadline for you to accept or decline the offer of admissions is May 1st. So she wanted to know if scholarship fundings will become available after May 1st, and the answer to that is I don't know. It could become available, and if it does, who will it go to or how it would be distributed? depends on what the scholarships restrictions involve. Will we have or can we have more scholarship funding available throughout the academic year? Yes, if we get any donations, if the stock market does really well, or if any students drop out. But again, that's not for sure. I can't sit here again and tell you, yes, scholarship funding will become available or not, because we just don't know. That's why I know that I sound like a broken record, but you have to make the decision with the funding that you have in your pocket, that you know for sure that you have. Anything else is icing on the cake. It's money that you can use either to lower your loans or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
That's a good question. She just said, did anybody hear that question? If extra scholarship becomes available, how is it allocated? Is there an application process? Are students notified? The answer to that, it depends. If the donor is looking for a very specific interest that the student must have or a particular background, or if funding becomes available based on financial need, we will be sending notifications out and either saying, do you fit the following criteria? Send us in either an essay, or sometimes you will need to submit your passport if it's from a particular country. If it's based on financial need, we will provide you with an application and say, has your situation changed from the time that you submitted your scholarship aid application? How has it changed? And provide the documents that will say that will support that. And that's how it would be done.
My second question is, do you get a disbursement every semester, or do you get it all at once? I guess how much money do you get when classes start?
That's a great question. So the question was, how is the aid dispersed? In most cases, it's dispersed. If you're 2 semesters, it's split up between fall and spring. If you're part-time, 3 semesters, it's split up between summer, fall, and spring. And it's really dependent upon how much you've taken out. In most cases, the scholarships and the loans disperse at the same time. Sometimes if there's adjustments that are made, then the dates are a little bit later. But generally speaking, if everything is in and everything is completed before the deadline, then the fall disbursement is the first week of classes. In MS, that's August, and MA, that's September. For January, for spring semester, it's the last week in January for both programs. Yes, ma'am, in the back. That's a great question. Her question was, when should a student apply for the Graduate Plus loan? If you are interested in the Graduate Plus loan, the one thing you need to know is that the decision is good or valid for 90 days. So if you're a full-time student starting in August, if you completed the application now, whether you're accepted or declined, you'd have to do a new one in probably July or August because it would expire before classes began. So if you're full-time MS, I recommend you contact our office at the end of May to complete a Graduate Plus loan application if that's what you're interested in. If you're MA, then in June. If you're a part-time summer student interested in Graduate Plus loans, then do it soon, okay? And just to tag on more to that Graduate Plus loan, so if you look on studentloans.gov, you'll see the Graduate Plus loan application. Columbia does not subscribe to that. So if you try to do it there, it'll tell you Columbia does not process Graduate Plus loans, which scares a lot of students. We do, but we just have our own website and we use paper applications as well. So if you'll just contact our office or stop by our office or contact me, I will get you the paper application or the online application, okay? That's a terrific question. How much is the maximum amount you can borrow for the Graduate Plus loan? The Graduate Plus loan and private loans can cover your unmet need for your cost of attendance. At our office, one of our main responsibilities is to create a cost of attendance which covers your tuition and fees and also your living expenses, personal expenses, traveling. If you recall, you're only mandated to pay your tuition and fees at Columbia. But you're eligible through loans to cover all the other things. So let me just very quickly pull up. Oh, well, it would help if you could actually see the dollar amounts. This is over here are the budgeted cost of attendance for 2013-2014, okay? So for the MS program, between scholarships, institutional aid, grants, loans, everything can be $84,588. Let's say that you have $20,000 in scholarships, then you could technically apply for $84,588. No, did I say 84? 64,000. Do you have to apply for that much? No. So with what I found with students in the past is there's two ways to do it. You can go for the full eligibility at the beginning, and if you don't use it all, you can return it. Some students don't trust themselves because they know if they get the full eligibility, they'll spend it all, so they'll do it piecemeal. So if you're eligible to apply for like 64,000, you can do 20 in fall and 20 in spring, and if you need more, then you can take out more. It's really up to you. It's very easy for us to do either way. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
When I called the aid office about Graduate Plus loans, and you might have covered this before I came, but the advisor I spoke to said that you needed a certain credit score to even get Graduate Plus loans.
Okay, so the question was, do you need a certain credit score? And we did cover this a little bit, but I'm glad to repeat it. So with the Graduate Plus loan, we don't know anything about credit scores. That's never factored in. I'll just repeat this. So for the Graduate Plus loan, it's a little less stringent than a private lender. If it's just because you have new credit, young credit, or not so good credit, you're generally going to be accepted. It's when you have horrendous credit that you're denied. Again, if you have bankruptcies, if you have foreclosures, if you have multiple 90-day late payments, you're going to be denied. If you have a few, maybe 30-day late payments, then you're questionable. But if it's just because you have young credit, then that loan's geared for you. Does that help?
Can you get a cosigner with that?
Absolutely. So, great question. What happens if I'm denied? You're absolutely encouraged to get a cosigner, okay? You can, if you have a family or friend who can co-sign with good credit, then you can do that as well. And just one more thing. If you apply for the Graduate Plus loan and you get denied and you don't feel that that's right, please, please, please appeal it. A lot of times the Graduate Plus loans, they use information from credit bureaus, and credit bureaus are not mandated to be up to date. We have several, I promise you, I have over 70% of students who are denied appeal it successfully. Of course, there are some students who know that they have bad credit, so when they see the denial, it's valid. But if you're denied and it doesn't seem right, please, please appeal it. And if it's not appealed successfully, then you can pursue a cosigner. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry?
Was this the one that international students had to have a cosigner?
So she asked if the Graduate Plus loan was available for international students, and the answer to that is no. Really, only private loans are available to international students. The difference being if that international student is a permanent resident, then they would be eligible for the Graduate Plus loan. Yes, ma'am.
What was the site that you said had a long list of scholarships you sent to email for?
Yeah, you have to email me for it because it's on SEPA, on the School of International and Public Affairs. They have an exhaustive list of scholarships. They even have a few external scholarships for international students. Keep in mind that it's SEPA is for international policy, so many of the scholarships are geared towards policy and public affairs, but they do have categories for general scholarships. They have categories for minorities. They have categories for humanities, for women, for summer. So pursue that in addition to all the other research you're doing with external scholarships.
What is your email?
Oh, my email is, I have cards, but my email is EH, like in Eric Halperin, EH25, as in 25, 49, as in I'll be 49 in a few years. So EH2549@columbia.edu. Columbia as in the university, not the country. My wife is from Columbia, so I have to remember that. Next question. Yes, ma'am.
So now we have to pay fees for health insurance, health
Great question. So the question is, I already have health insurance. Do I have to pay the health services fee? Right next to my table is the health services agent, but they will tell you if you have insurance already, you need to just speak with the health services and they just need to make sure that it has the basic coverage. If you have the basic coverage, then you can opt out. If you do it in a timely manner, you can actually opt out before you're billed for that. If you do it afterwards, then it can be removed from your bill later, and then it would be refunded to you if you already paid for it. So if you have basic coverage, you just prove it to the health services department and they will remove the bill. Yes, sir?
You just recently put your 2 weeks in and no longer covered. Can you get covered over these 3 months, or do you have to wait until August?
So the question was, if you don't have insurance right now, how do you get insurance up to August? Unfortunately, I think you have to be enrolled. I'm going to say the answer is no, but again, right next to my table is the health services gentleman, and he can answer that. You should, but I think as Eric Halper, not as a Columbia representative, I think that you'd be eligible for COBRA, so you may want to, though that's exhaustive. And
I just spoke to the health services guy at the table,
and
he says they have something that covers you for people that start before September, because regular coverage doesn't start until September. Anybody is eligible to apply for the pre-enrollment, which covers 2 months, so it would cover July and August.
Okay, so if you didn't hear the woman over here, the health services agent said that you can get pre-enrollment coverage. You just have to fill out the paperwork. Again, you could probably speak with him, and he can go into more details. Yes, ma'am.
Also, you can take COBRA, but you have to pay your entire premium. So, like, you pay a portion of it out of your paycheck now, and if you get COBRA, you have to pay the whole premium, which for me personally is like $700. So,
That's why it's named after a snake. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible to pay your tuition per month?
The question, is it possible to pay your tuition per month? Does anyone remember the answer to that? Not all at once, please.
I guess not.
Yes, we have the tuition payment plan. It's geared for students who don't have all the money up front. You can create a payment plan and do the 10 installments. There's another way to do it, which we don't recommend. If you pay it out of pocket and you don't enroll in the payment plan, again, it's only $55 for the whole year. So if that's where you're going, please do that. If you don't pay it on the times for September 13th, you get assessed late fees, and you'll get a late fee every single month. It's $150 plus 1.5% the first time, and then 1.5% of the outstanding balance after that. So if you know that that's an option for you, please initiate the payment plan, because you'll save yourself a lot of money. And you won't get nasty emails from me. They start off nice, kind of. They get nastier. Next question. Is anyone scared about taking out loans? Okay, so let me address that. My office, unfortunately, that's my job to put you in debt. But my responsibility is try to keep it as little as possible and to make you aware of what you're signing up for. It's very important that you know that, look, this for Columbia and for living expenses, it's a lot of money. It's a huge, someone asked yesterday what the average was. So we brought, the average that students took out last year was $45,000 per year. That's the average. We've had several students who are in the 80s, some students in the 20s. You're going to take that out. Please know what you're getting into. Utilize my office to figure that out. One moment. So do that, and just be mindful that it's part of the education. If that's what do they say? You need to spend money to make money. I find that the students who are scared of their debt do much better than the students who just willy-nilly say, okay, I just want the maximum amount. In some cases, we give the maximum amount and students ask for a budget increase to get more, which you can do, but it's crazy to me. But you can do it, but it's crazy to me. Yes, sir?
Compared to other graduate schools at Columbia, for their finals one-year program, what is their average other graduate schools here?
The average cost of attendance or the average they take out? Oh, I don't even, my office deals with 4 schools, and even amongst those 4 schools, I have Columbia, journalism, practically, they have 5, but the other schools have so many, it depends. I know that one of the architecture programs that I deal with, they're 3 semesters, and their cost of attendance is $119,000. I really don't know the average.
What do those numbers come? How do you guys create that number?
So that's a fair question. How do we create that number? Where do we get our cost of attendance? Well, the tuition and the fees, well, the tuition comes from the School of Journalism. They tell us how much they're going to charge you. The fees comes from Columbia, and that generally consists of facilities fees, transcripts fees, technology fees. For the MS program, we can show you a quick breakdown on the fees. So it's facilities fees, facilities fees, medical insurance fees, transcript fees. They have, if you're full-time, they have a health services fee, which is mandatory. Basically, health services, they offer, hopefully you will never have to use health services. They fund things that hopefully you'll never have to use, but if you do, it's available, and it's mandatory for all full-time students. And then the transcript fees, so once you've completed with Columbia, you can request as many transcripts as you want, to your heart's delight. So that's cover the tuition and fees. What is the rest? It's in the living expenses. That's what we budget. We try to determine what you would need to live in New York City. I've got a news flash. New York City is expensive. So this is our budget. I wish I had a laser, but I don't. In this column, this is what we figured out for monthly. I'll start from the bottom. The $24.77 is what we budget for a monthly cost. It includes $426 for personal expenses. Very few students have argued that. That works out. That's maybe for shopping, for clothes, and going out. Travel is $160. That's generally your cost of a monthly Metro card and maybe a few taxi cab rides. If you live in Long Island and you need to increase it for that expense, we can do a budget increase for that, for the Long Island Railroad. Books, we don't have a monthly expense, but generally for journalism, it works out to be about $770 for a semester. Will you use all that net? Who knows? Probably not. The big thing is the room and board total is $1891 per month. Utilities, I'll start with the easy stuff. Utilities, $294, that works for most students. The food, $520 a month for one individual. If you need that much, you're eating out every single meal and finding more meals. Even in New York City, you don't need $520 a month for food. But we allot you that much if you want to. The rent, that's the big deal in New York City, $1,077. If you want to live in Manhattan by yourself, you're not paying that price. You're not getting anything near that. Maybe in the outer boroughs, you may get a small studio for $1,077. But if you're looking for a roommate, $1,077 is very doable in Manhattan and also in the 5 boroughs. Well, the other 4 boroughs. With that, we can do a budget increase up to $2,077 per month. We would just require a lease with your name on it and to reflect that you're attending during the semesters. Okay? But that's how we develop the cost of attendance. And really, I mean, I've had students who ask me by themselves for $2,800 a month. That's just insane. You're going here for school. You don't need to live in Times Square. Yes, ma'am. Great question. How do the budget increases work? That is a great question. And the second caveat to was, can you do it any time? The answer is yes. So maybe you don't need that. Your budget's working, but something happens and you need some more funds. You need to do a budget increase. If you know right from the get-go, if your rent is more than $1,077, you can do it then. But you can wait till November. You can wait till December. You can try to budget it budget yourself at a smaller amount. If you need to do a budget increase, you'll come to our office and fill out, there's a very easy budget increase form, and then we would just require the paperwork. The main budget increase is for rent, living expenses. With that, we need your lease with your name on it. If you're going to get a sublease, and you can do that, please try to get a legal document for that in case you need to do a budget increase later. Then you can generally find templates and get it notarized. For one moment. Another big one is travel. We are allowed to budget 1 trip home per year. So if you fly home to California during Christmas, and if you want to do a budget increase for that, we can do that. That's a big thing. We can do medical expenses that aren't covered by your insurance. So if you have a lot of co-pays, prescriptions, we can do budget increases for that. We can also do one-time computer laptop purchase or computer purchase. After you buy a computer, if you just bring in the receipt from the computer, we can do a budget increase for that one time per program. So that would work for most MS and MA, but if you're in the part-time, if you're in 2 years, you can only do it once. Okay, and you had a question about that?
Yeah, for international students, what's the timeline that you think we should have our finances settled by so we can get a visa in
Do you want to cover that one?
That's a very good question. We have an office here, the Office of International and Scholars Affairs, who will be working with you in putting your visa documents together. I'm not sure if they're in the informational fair, but I think one of the representatives should be here. The process starts after the admissions deposit date, which is May 1st. I believe they start reaching out to you in June so that you're able to have everything settled by the time that you need to get here. But that's usually the time frame. Does that make sense? Let me just say something about the visas. Make sure, for those that are international students, that the funds that you are providing on your visa applications are funds that you have and that are yours. It is a legal document. It is something that you are submitting to immigration. And it's a difficult position to be in as a student and as a representative of the school when, unfortunately, we have students come in and state, that some of the funding that was reported was not available or belonged to somebody else. So just think clearly and before you start providing information on those documentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Did everybody hear that question? She was saying for the visa, can you use any scholarship funding that you have received either from us or from an outside organization? And the answer to that is yes. Because what they're looking for is that you're able to cover the full cost of attendance and that you have the resources for that. And obviously scholarships or any student loans that you have secured abroad can be used for those purposes. And 9 times out of 10, what they're going to ask for, it's an official notification from either us, and we'll provide that from you, or from the outside organization stating the amount and when it's going to be given to you and when you can expect it.
Also for a visa, when you send in those statements to the bank account, if your parents are supporting you financially, can you also send their statements?
Yes, her question again dealt with visa, where she said if your parents are supporting you, can you provide their bank account information? And the answer to that is yes. You can provide their bank account information, and I believe they'll also have to provide a letter stating that they will be supporting you and the amount that they will be given to you, and then the bank statements will act as the verifier or the attestation to whatever it is that they're stating.
Great question. So the question was, how does it work with regards to monthly expenses, living expenses? So again, if everything is in place before school begins, all your loans disperse twice, once in fall, once in spring, and then again if you're part-time, summer as well. So for tuition and fees and the whole whatever you borrow for that semester disperses the first week of classes. It goes to your Columbia account where it pays your tuition and fees, and then the remainder is then issued to you in a refund. If you want to, please sign up for direct deposit so you'll get it faster. We say 3 to 5 business days, but sometimes it's faster. If you do snail mail, again, we say 10 business days, it could be longer. Yeah, so if we give you like for fall, we give you 5 months worth of living expenses, it's your job or your responsibility to make sure that it lasts 5 months. Awesome question. Awesome question. If you don't use it all, can we use it for the next semester? You can use it for the next semester, but you can also return it to the Department of Ed and reduce your outstanding debt. You can use it for next semester, but it's not going to affect, it wouldn't affect the spring amount unless you directed me to read. So let's say you have a few options. If at the end of fall you have $2,000 left, you can either direct me to return it, or you can direct me to reduce spring by $2,000, or you can just keep it for a safety emergency nest egg. Yes, in the very, very back. Okay, so I think the answer to that is two questions. If you don't borrow enough money, the question was, if you don't borrow enough money, when can you do the increase? I want to make clear that we have that cost of attendance and we cannot exceed that. So if you're at that and we need to increase it, we can do a budget increase to increase the cost of attendance. But if I wasn't sure if this is what you're asking, or if you're doing the case where you're eligible to ask for $60,000 and you only take $40,000, when can you take out the other amount? You can do a budget increase to increase your cost of attendance anytime through the semester. If you only take out a piecemeal of Graduate Plus loans or even Stafford loans, as long as you're in the semester, you can take out more. So as long as you're in the semester, you can take out more, and you can also increase your budget. Before I forget, this is just an example of some of the loan amounts that students took out last year. I've got it on 81,422, which is one of the highest. So this is what a lot of students are taking out loans. So for the students who are scared, they take out a lot of money. This is just some of the amounts that they take out in loans alone. Okay? And I always forget this, but I want to remind students, if you're interested, if you're trying to determine whether you want to do the plus loan or the private loan, one huge determining factor in taking out a federal loan, which is a huge benefit. If when you're done with school, if you're unemployed or underemployed, federal government has hardship deferments up to 2 to 3 years depending upon your situation. That's enormous because private loans do not offer that. And it's so easy to initiate. So if you're looking which one you want to choose, keep in mind that federal loans have hardship deferments. And they're so easy to use. I hope you never have to use that, but if you take out federal loans and you are in hardship, don't wait until you're broken and penniless. When you start to struggle is when you initiate the hardship. And if you don't use it, great. But initiate it before you're beyond gone. Yes, sir.
The public service forgiveness, do you have to be with the government?
Great question. So another benefit of private federal loans is that you can have loan forgiveness. Generally, it's mostly the main employment is nursing or teaching, but as the gentleman asked, it can be if you have a position with federal, local, or state government, sometimes those are eligible for loan forgiveness as well. And just keep it in mind, as a journalist, you don't have to be writing maybe your communications for a state or local government, so that might be eligible as well. It's not just teaching and nursing. You can't, or if you're journalism and you're a teacher, you teach journalism, that's eligible as well. Yes, ma'am. Great question. So some students, as you can see, take out a lot of money. Are there income-based and income contingent repayment plans? Yes, there are. Income-based is really for the people who are making hardly no money at all. I think that it starts, you have to make less than $30,000 to be eligible. It might even be lower. And it takes a percentage of your discretionary income and bases your repayment on that. Income contingent is very similar. You can make a little bit more. It takes a little bit higher percentage of your discretionary income. So it takes into account that you're not making money right away. And when your earning power gets greater, then your payment gets greater as well. Yes, ma'am. Do they help you wire it in? Wait. So the question was, for international students, if you're wiring it from a different country, we give you the wiring instructions. Oh, you can do it with a payment plan as well. Mm-hmm. But though, and I'm not sure, and you'd have to check with Sally Mae. I think that with the payment plan, you would wire it to Sally Mae, and then they would pay Columbia on your behalf. But confirm, I'd say 97% positive on that. But confirm if that's something you're interested in. I can give you a brochure and you can contact that and confirm that. Yes, ma'am. Amber Griffiths? Mm-hmm.
But financially, do I work with you guys if they need a budget or something like that, or do I just?
No, Amber will handle that. I don't know if you've had to rely on VA before. Just know they're going to be very slow in paying. Very slow in paying. So you're unfortunately going to get some nasty emails sometimes, and then we're going to have to be reminded that you've got voc rehab or VA. But Amber or her assistants will handle all of that. Okay? But, I mean, sometimes she'll reach out to me, confirm. If she needs it, she'll reach out to me. But she'll handle all of that. Yes, ma'am. Okay. As a permanent resident, and it's even better if you don't have a credit history, then that means you don't have horrible credit, so you'd be eligible and you'd probably be accepted. Any other questions? My favorite color is blue, if that was a question on someone's mind. Any questions about loans, how scary they are, other repayment plans? If you're interested, we can always send out the email for direct lending. Yeah, we have, because the direct lending website has great information on repayment plans, and even better, they have calculators. So if you know that you're going to take out $81,422, they can tell you what you to expect in a standard repayment, what you could expect in an extended repayment, income contingent or income based. We have calculators for that on the direct lending website. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the payment plan.
Mm-hmm.
What are the eligibility requirements for that?
You have money? No, it's very simple. Like I said, it's very simple. One important caveat is you've got to do that before July 1st. You have to set it up before July 1st for fall. And I think probably for spring, if you're only doing spring only, you would have to have that set up probably before November. But the only thing you have to do is sign up for it and then just create your payment plan. You tell them how much you want to pay over 5 months or over 10 months. And basically what you do is they set it up, they tell us that you're going to be paying it on 5 months or 10 months. And as long as you make a payment to them, they turn around and pay it to us. If for whatever reasons you have a financial emergency and you don't make a payment, then they just don't make the payment. But it's very simple. There's no eligibility requirements other than to have internet access.
So, but let's say something did happen, like an emergency where you couldn't make the payment during spring semester, then they would hold you a degree, correct?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, if they didn't ever pay, and if that emergency was so severe that you would never be able, or you wouldn't be able to pay that semester, yeah, there'd be a hold on your graduation. Any other questions? Christine, do you have a question? Oh. Any other questions? Carmen, do you have a question? Any experiences through financial aid that you'd like to share?
Talk to students who are graduating to ask about what their monthly loans are that they pay, just because that's originally what made me think I wasn't going to go to Columbia, and then talking to more students and realizing there were different repayment plans is what made me decide that I would go. So definitely know what your monthly amount will be, know what payment plan you're going to choose before you even walk into the school. That'll help make you feel better about your decision because you'll know what your monthly amount will look like walking out of school.
Thank you, Carmen. Did everyone hear that? Okay. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your weekend. Oh. And my director has some forms back here. He brought some. That would be him in the suit. But he's ignoring me, so forget it.